The Dictionary of Psychology defines racism as, quote, the social and political belief that utilizes race as a basis for economic, political, and social segregation, denial of rights, and treatment of the disadvantaged group as inferior, end of quote. Blanche Boyd, author of The Redneck Way of Knowledge, contends that all whites that she has encountered are racist. Some social scientists divide the racism category into one, racist, those who do nothing to change racism, and two, anti-racist, those who are trying to do something about it. In an issue of the Village Voice newspaper and in her new book, Blanche Boyd wrote, quote, well-intentioned white people are often afraid to confront the possibility that they're racist, end of quote. I'm Tony Brown. In a moment, racist racism or anti-racist racism. Joining me to discuss this issue is Blanche Boyd, author of The Redneck Way of Knowledge and a self-confessed racist. This edition of Tony Brown's Journal originates from the Warner Amex Cube studios in Cincinnati, Ohio. Cube's dramatic fusion of computer technology and cable television puts me in direct contact with thousands of households. The heart of the system is the Cube console, a small computer terminal in the home of every subscriber. We can ask the viewers questions, and they talk back by touching a button on their console while remaining anonymous. The computer tallies their responses and displays the results, all in a matter of seconds. I like to call these polls an electronic show of hands, which register the opinions of the Cube audience in Cincinnati. They are not meant to be a scientifically valid measurement of public opinion. Before we begin discussion of this topic, we would like to find out the perception of the Cube viewers in Cincinnati, Ohio. So I will ask them the following question. Are all whites racist? If it's yes, touch button number 1. 2, touch button number 2. If you're not sure, touch button number 3. Touch now, please. We are asking the members of the Cube viewing audience in Cincinnati, Ohio, to answer this question and to share their opinions with the rest of the nation. At the end of this discussion, this question, are all whites racist, will be asked again. And at that time, we will compare the responses to determine if the discussion influenced the opinions of the Cube viewers. Yes is no percent. No is 85%, and not sure is 15%. I kind of suspected that. Did you, Ms. Boyd?
Yes, I did.
Why do you think that is? Does that go along with your premise that most people, most whites, do not want to confront the possibility, I underscore possibility, that they might be racist?
Well, it's not a popular view. When you describe me as a self-confessed racist, I flinch, because, I believe racism is, well, wrong, to put it real simply. But it's been my own experience that all of the white people I've ever met in this country are racist. They support, I don't mean that they're active, conscious racists. I don't mean they're members of the Klan or whatever, but that they do inadvertently or by not failing to examine themselves, they do support the institutions that perpetuate discrimination, that hold racism in place.
And in that same, at that same spot that you said that all whites that you encountered were racist, you did specifically mention yourself.
Oh yeah, well, in fact, maybe it would do me a little bit of good here to explain how I came to write this article. I'm a white Southerner. I grew up in South Carolina. I left the South when I was 18, as I described it in my book, as if it were a burning building. I was horrified to find out. It was a little bit like being a young German. I just made an analogy to being Eichmann's daughter growing up as a white Southerner. People don't assume you're guilty, but they wonder how you've been affected. I wanted to deny that racism was part of my heritage, so I ran away. I went to live in California for 7 years. I went to live in New York for 6 years. I lived in Vermont. I thought of myself as a political radical. I was arrested in a demonstration, and I was certainly a feminist. I was involved in the women's movement, and I gradually came to recognize that I was seeing the same behavior in different ways, maybe not so conscious and overt as it was in the South, but a lack of self-knowledge, a lack of self-examination among white people. Well, I think most white people are really afraid to think that they might have absorbed ideas or attitudes that are morally reprehensible.
George Stinney. George Stinney. Before we even begin, Providence. So this one, the creator is sending the message to Gus T. Everyone, if you've been listening to the cows for the month of October, message from the creator. George Stinney. Gus T told you just this month, last 30 days, I just said the great Neely Fuller Jr. His born date is October 6, 1929. I told you weeks ago, he and George Stinney have a birth date separated by basically 2 weeks. Fuller, October 6. George Stinney, October 21. Our broadcast for today was supposed to happen on October 20. Our admitted racist white guest, South Carolina native, requested to move this program to October 21. George Stinney. Extra relevant because I had George Stinney in my notes anyway. We're going to talk about a death penalty case in South Carolina. It would be obligatory to mention George Stinney on the cover of Dr. Tommy J. Curry's book, The Man Not, Race, Class, Genre, and the Dilemmas of Black Manhood. He got George Stinney on the front cover. Why? 14-year-old black male executed in South Carolina. They didn't have no mercy for him. They didn't have no forgiveness for him. And to this day, 2025, for the most part, they still don't. They being individuals classified as white in South Carolina. But it's George Stinney Day on the cows. Message from the creator received. Worthless Negro from Virginia, Gus T. Renegade, Context of White Supremacy. I already told you, Tuesday, October 21, 2025. I'm going to get to what I really wanted to say. Oh, my Lord. Oh, my Lord. What they say, do they still say act a fool? I'm going to act a fool today, one, because the brag has already been shown. If I wanted to come, do they still say get the dirt off my shoulders? And I did my research and all that to prepare. You already heard all of that because you heard an interview that was almost 50 years old from our guest today admitting to be a racist. That's the brag. The fast forward is you heard them give a poll. The great Tony Brown, Cube technology from 1982, where they polled listeners in Cincinnati, Ohio, asked them, is all white people's racist? 0%. Do you think all white people's is racist? 0%. 85% said, no way. I don't think a whole lot has changed in that poll. Now, Mr. Tony Brown, journalist extraordinaire, he focused on white people in that poll, saying, I don't agree. Not all white people's is racist. a lot of black people participated in that poll, and not one black person said yes. And this was anonymous. Wink, wink. You just get to punch a button. Comfort of your residence. Not one black person. Yes, I think everyone classified as white is racist. We ain't made no progress in 50 years. And in fact, now you have non-white people brag and stick their chest out with pride as though they have said something profound, new, progressive, to say not all white people is racist. We've been saying that forever. When I say we, I mean non-white people, victims of racism. Apparently, we've been saying this for a long time. I say this with venom, and I stick my chest out, because if I had participated in that survey, it would have been one person to say, Gus T, yes, I think everyone classified as white, that means you are racist. Whew. That survey right there, if you ever needed it more clear, they say, Gus T, you have some venom. You be coming on here and acting like you don't get down with the other non-white people. You not cool with them. You not friendly with them. Exactly. Exactly. Because I can only conclude we are so cowardly, we being victims of racism, and individuals classified as white who practice racism, like our guest for today, they have done such an extraordinary job trashing our brain computers so we're not logical, really terrorizing us. You had better not think all white people is racist. And even if you do, you better lie even if you dream and think all white people is racist. The product of all of that, oh my goodness, the amount of non-white people who have started conflict with Gus T. You don't know what you're talking about. All white peoples is racist. Just this year. Put that God bless the dead for George Stinney and Sade C. Robinson, her mother, in the midst of all that tragedy, ghoulish white behavior, dismembering a black female. Whoa, 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 Gus T. You out here talking about all white peoples is racist. What? What? That happened this year? That's happened the entire time we've been on the air. In fact, even non-white people take issue. Gus T, you're not codified, you're not scientific, you don't know what you're talking about, saying admitted white supremacists do what? Do what? I'm going to say it again. We got a guest for today, admitted racist. Now you can let her tell you if that's accurate or not. But that right there, it was zero. Thousands of people participated in that Cube Vision report, and it was 0%. So when I say you're coming to a program, even in 2025, I ask, do you know non-white people not jumping up and down, emotional, and I hate crackers and down with whitey? Because that sounds like that could be what y'all call it, an agent, a plant, COINTELPRO. That's what that sounds like to me. But do you know anybody who's just said, I'm a scholar, I'm going to study the evidence and make a scientific conclusion? What does it mean to be white? Do you know any non-white people anywhere in the known universe? Bang! Their conclusion, yes, everyone classified as white is racist. We've been here 17 years, and I cannot think of anybody except me and then the non-white people. I wasn't even saying that, making it a public point before this year. Things changed when I grasped, hey, there's animosity from non-white people about my stance on this. I even pointed out people like our admitted racist guest they can say white people. They can say all white people are racist. Non-white people don't get an attitude. They don't get, I'm going to start some conflict with her. And, oh, what you said? You didn't hear Tony Brown get an attitude with her. With me. Oh. No problem. We're going to chat it up with an admitted racist. That right there is why we've had a white guest only policy for years. I'm not interested in talking to cowardly non-white people. If you're afraid of white people, and I am too, but if you're so cowardly, you can't even be truthful about what it means to be white. Back up off me. You don't need to listen to the cows. Really, keep my name out your mouth. And most of the time, y'all are so cowardly, you do. They talk around it and they'll do nonsense and say, and I've seen this publicly, you got people running around here talking about all white peoples is racist or admitted white supremacists. Don't nobody say that but me, particularly the latter. Don't nobody say that from me. If you're too cowardly to be honest about what it means to be white, really too cowardly to be accurate about Gus T, sit down. You don't need to discuss counter-racism, white supremacy racism, nothing. VGQ your hind parts to a seat. Now, our guest for today's program, you already heard in the intro, that was from 50 years ago, so we're going to see anything change. You still an admitted racist. We found her from the Katherine Massey Book Club. Susan Smith, race soldier, killed her 2 white children in the year Orenthal James was arrested. Blamed it on another. OJ said OJ done snuck to South Carolina, carjacked me, and took my white children. And they took 9 days. I done lied. I killed the children. OJ didn't do nothing. I'm sorry. I don't know when. I don't retract on that apology because anyway. But we were reading about Susan Smith, and I did my research. Obviously, I found our guest for today. She covered the trial, wrote about old Susan Smith, wrote about what it means to be white. Let us get to it. Joining us live, admitted racist Blanche Boyd. Miss Boyd, are you with us?
I hope so. I'm listening to you. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Crystal clear. Thank you so much for joining us on George Stinney's born date. I guess number 1, fast forward everything. So that was Tony Brown, 1982, 50 years past. Maybe you've changed a lot. Is that still correct? Admitted racist?
Let me talk a minute, okay? If you go to the end of Tony Brown's thing, you see when he re-polled everybody, the numbers had changed. And the reason is, in 1982, we had no terms for structural or institutionalized racism. We didn't have words like that. But, you know, I once saw, if you say people of color, you've got to say white people. And white people, my friends, my good friends, they said, but why do you keep talking about white people? I said, because you can't say people and people of color. It's insane. If you make those your 2 categories, that's insane. It's like saying people and women. No.
Okay. Pause right there, Miss Boyd. Let's pause right there. Pause right there. We got the giggling and everything, and I told you all today, this is why I can't talk to black people and mess around with y'all other victims of rape. Not all white people is rape. Fine, cool. Get over there. Get out of the way. Miss Boyd?
It's structural.
Hang on, Miss Boyd. Hang on right there. Pause. For this broadcast is very important. I have concluded one of the ways people classified as white like yourself deliberately practice racism, not answering questions, being very deceptive with words. So for this broadcast, we do want to hear you talk, but what is most important is to answer the question that was asked. The question, and this was an important one, and this is a yes/no. The question was, is that still true? You said you're an admitted racist. Is that still true today, 2025? Yes, no?
That's not exactly what I said. The whole piece is about that if you are white, you cannot help but benefit from being white. You can try to get away from it. I mean, I moved out of South Carolina thinking I was escaping racism. I go to California, it's institutionalized there too. You go to New York, it's institutionalized there. You know, the
Miss
same
Boyd,
opportunities.
Miss Boyd, we're going to have
not
to hang on again right there.
for-
Hang on.
Right.
Because this is a important question, and this would be an easy yes, no. Now, we did ask for an interview. So are you going to be willing to honestly answer our questions, yes or no?
I don't think your question is quite fair. I think racism, the whole point of the piece was...
Hang on a
racism
second.
is
Wait a
wrong.
minute. You're doing the same thing. If I'm going to ask a question and you're just going to deviate and talk about anything, I'm going to really have to point out this is exactly how she's deliberately practicing racism right now. So I'm going to have to go back, rewind, because you haven't answered any of my questions, and I'm not just going to let you sit here and talk to me like I'm some idiot black person that thinks, well, she's not racist. No, I'm going to say exactly what I said before. I think you're deliberately practicing racism. So let's slow it down. If you say you're willing to solve this problem, you should be willing to answer a few questions. That's what you agreed to. So are you willing to answer our questions honestly, Miss Boyd?
Yes.
Okay.
I think so. I don't
Let's
want to be
hold on right there.
though.
We want to
Okay.
go all the way back to the beginning because I think you lied super. We could replay Tony Brown, but I mean, forget all that. Don't mess around with us. Are you
Get to the end of Tony
a
Brown.
racist?
And
I
when
listened
they-
to the whole program. Please stop interrupting me.
Yeah.
I have not interrupted you. I've just been
That's-
begging you to answer my questions. Now,
All white
are
people
you
are racist, yes.
a racist? Yes or no?
I'm white. All white people are racist, and I am white. Yes.
Jesus, Lord. It
All
took
white
that
people-
right there. Oh, did you have more? Go ahead.
Yeah, all white people benefit from structural racism, even if they're doing their best or pretending that they don't benefit from racist structures. We all do. All white people benefit from it. And I was trying to call attention to that. And, you know, we're talking 45 years ago I wrote that. You know, I'm still writing about racism. This has been the major racism and sexism have been the major issues of my life. And you know, how do you, if you're a man, how do you combat sexism?
All right,
If
I'm
you're
gonna
a
pause
white
you right
person,
there.
How do you
Pause right there because I didn't ask you anything
Okay.
about being a man and practicing sex. I didn't ask anything about that. That's when I'm gonna have to
Okay.
make a major request right here. I suspect
All
you
right.
are deliberately practicing racism in a myriad of ways. If you're a white woman and you're an admitted racist who says that you're trying to solve this problem, produce justice, it should not have taken us, it was about 10 minutes just to get are you a racist? Yes, which you've already admitted to publicly, wrote about on there. It should not have taken that long. In fact, I thought that whole exchange was super tacky. What you just said, when you said some white people, racists like yourself, they will pretend. Oh, you didn't even give us a good pretend to start the program. You just sound like the typical tacky racists who are dedicated to maintaining the system of white supremacy. That's why we still have
No,
this
I'm
problem.
not.
Hang on, you're
dedicated
interrupting
to
again, and you're
dismantling
doing
it.
a lot of interrupting. You're doing a
All you
lot of
do is
interrupting.
talk. You
You're
don't let
doing
me
a lot
talk.
of interrupting. I
You
will
don't-
let you
you
talk
don't
if you
let
answer
anybody
my
else talk.
question.
You're just
If you
talking
would
to yourself.
answer my question, I would allow you to
I
talk.
did answer your question.
Thank you.
I
Can
did
I ask
answer
some
your
more
question.
questions then, and we'll allow you to talk? But
Yeah.
it's very
How about
important.
go to
Do
another
not interrupt
question?
me.
Yeah,
I'm not going to
answer that.
interrupt you. Do not interrupt me because
You
I think
do
that is a
interrupt me.
massive
You
act of
interrupt me every
racism.
time I try to say something.
When you don't answer my question, yes, and I'm going to continue to do that, and that's interjecting because I've already said I think you're deliberately practicing racism, and this is a widespread pattern amongst people classified as white. So yes, I am going to interject and call that out as racism and just redirect you. Answer the question. Don't just talk about nonsense and lie to us. Other than that, I will not interrupt you. You do not interrupt me, please, because I think you're just being a white woman practicing racism. I'm just going to talk over this Negro, South Carolina Strom
I
Thurmond's
think you're
now.
just talking to yourself.
Now,
You're just talking to
See,
yourself.
you're still
not talking to
interrupting
me.
being racist. You're still interrupting being racist.
Well, keep on talking. Keep on talking. You know, what do you have me on here for? You don't want me to talk. You just want to talk at me.
What does it mean to be now? Is this a white woman pretending to be against racism? Let me get to my definition of racism. That's something we start our programs with generally.
Okay, good.
My definition, racism, and I use racism as a synonym with white supremacy. Definition is a global, system of people classified as white who are dedicated to abusing and or subjugating everyone in the known universe whom they classify as not white. Do you believe such a system exists? Is that definition accurate?
I think it's pretty much accurate. Yes, I think the system does work like that. And there's no way to disavow being white. You can't undo it, you know? I mean, I live in a town now that is predominantly white. I'm very comfortable here. If I moved into a neighborhood that was predominantly black, I probably wouldn't be comfortable. And so is that participating in structural racism? Absolutely. Absolutely it is. And, for me, the main problem is white people haven't wanted to think about being white. They haven't wanted to think about it. Now that they're all thinking about it, now they want to talk about, well, race doesn't matter. Well, if you're a person of color, you know race matters. White people don't have to know race matters because it's institutionalized. That's what I was trying to say. Did you understand what I meant?
Thank you for answering the question. Again, I really appreciate it. It will work much of it. Because, see, I didn't interrupt you. If you can just answer the question that was asked, and I will not interrupt you. Thank you. We can try and have a courteous dialogue, see if we can get some information, maybe even get a caller or two. Now, I want to point out importantly, Miss Boyd, Admitted Racist, has displayed a lot of the same patterns that we've seen from many, many white people around the world for over a decade. One of the main ones that I point out, the insincerity of people like her who allege that they're against racism. They'll say, oh yes, I am racist, and or we white people are racist. The number one thing they will point to is the B word, benefit. Oh, we get all the goodies in the knapsack and Peggy McIntosh. All of that is nonsense. Yeah, white people benefit. That's the racism, particularly for a minority population on the planet, as Dr. Welsing reminded us all the time. You have to practice white supremacy, racism, and in a variety of ways to dominate all these non-white people on the planet. So you just told us about your living situation as one way that you practice white supremacy, racism, living in this racially restricted region. Can you tell us some other ways that you have practiced racism, and some recent ones, maybe from like 2025?
Well, let's say I taught at a college, predominantly white college, for 40 years. And I taught writing. The school itself kept trying to address, why do we end up being predominantly white? What can we do to change it? And it felt like no matter which way you turned, the school, the institution, couldn't figure out how to change itself. And now you've got this extreme reaction from the right, which is trashing the colleges for even trying to address it, trying to address the structural inequities about race. It's awful. It's awful. And now to have people in the government.
Well, wait, see,
saying,
you're doing it again. I'm pointing this out
bullshit.
because I didn't ask about other people.
Okay.
I asked about you specifically, and you've deviated to the government. So let's get back to Blanche Boyd specifically. How have you practiced racism?
How about, can we change that word to benefit instead?
No, I just gave that in the question specifically. That's how white people practice racism. That's totally irrelevant. My question was practice racism.
I don't think I practice racism in the sense that you mean practice. I don't think I do. I think I benefit from racism all over the place, but I don't think I practice racism.
Well, sorry, go ahead. I thought you were done.
Well, I don't even know how to address your question. By the time I got to the end of Tony Brown, that was very scary for me. I got to tell you, that first line is the scariest line I ever wrote, and because the white people didn't want to hear what I was saying. They really didn't.
Well, see, we're
And
deviating again. You're deviating again. See, this is not an interruption. I didn't ask you how white people responded to your report. I asked about practicing racism. So you said it should just be full stop. I have difficulty with your question. I don't think I practice. I benefit. Now, I'm going to say, I think you are bold-faced lying to us, Ms. Boyd. Wait a minute, and even for listeners, this is important because you told Tony Brown your age on that broadcast. So if I may kindly request, can you tell us your age, please?
I just turned 80.
Okay, thank you so much. And sounding healthy, still rolling, writing, doing all the good stuff. Take care of yourself. Strom Thurmond did live to be 101, if my memory served, one of your fellow South Carolinians.
I always thought he was really dead, and they were propping him up.
The importance of this is a white woman who is an admitted racist who has been on this planet for 8 decades. Now, I would think it should be a lengthy list of times and ways that I practice racism. You got a nice list from just tonight alone, but you can't think of, I mean, let me back up. Do you think you have practiced racism in your 80 years on the planet?
I've certainly participated in it. Do I think I consciously practiced it? No, I don't think so. But I will tell you this, when I go to the grocery store here, almost everybody in my grocery store is white. That's true. And am I comfortable? Yes. And is that practicing racism? I don't know. It's certainly benefiting from it. It's certainly being enmeshed in it.
Have you heard racist jokes, Miss Boyd?
As a child, I did. It's part of why I left the South.
Do you remember any of the racist jokes? This is in South Carolina?
No. Even now, I won't let people tell me any joke because of racist and anti-Semitic jokes that I grew up with. And I don't want to be around it. I don't want to hear it. Don't even tell me a joke. You know, that's how I feel. I don't remember any of that stuff. No.
Also very common for our listeners where white people say that they've heard oodles, sometimes thousands of these racist jokes, but they either do not remember, so they tell us, or they won't tell one. From your response, one, I guess it sounds like you heard a lot, like you might be in that thousands category. Did you? I mean, I don't know if you had a clicker to count, but I mean, it sounds like you might have heard thousands of these racist jokes growing up in South Carolina. Yes, maybe?
I would say I probably heard 100. I mean, I left when I was 16. So, you know, I didn't even understand what was going on around me at first. I lived in a white neighborhood. I didn't understand anything. Charleston was 70% black, and I lived in a white neighborhood and had no notion that 70% of the people where I lived were black. I didn't know that. I didn't know that because white people don't have to know it. We don't have to know it.
Dylan Roof.
Oh, yeah. Let me tell these people I can't talk. Hang on a second. I don't know what to do. Send a voicemail. There. I think I did it. You still there?
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so with the racist jokes, I also wanted to get to, because you said you heard maybe 100 or so, and you left early South Carolina, racially restricted region of Charleston, but it sounded like you also, people maybe wind up to tell you some of these jokes now even.
Absolutely.
And you say you
should. As a child, I mean, I didn't even want to go home and have dinner with my family because they would try to tell me racist jokes to see if they could make me laugh. And you know, I was like, I don't want to have dinner with y'all. No thanks. Because it felt so intractable and so horrible to see what we were enmeshed in, the racism that we were enmeshed in. And, you know, it was like no matter which way you turn, you were still stuck in it. And I didn't know what to do about it. And I tried to take it on in my own history and write that piece.
Where are the racist jokes coming from now, where you stop them and tell them you don't want to hear this?
Nobody would try to tell me a racist joke now. Nobody. I don't know any people that would.
You said from your response, you said it sounds like people, even now, they'll start up and you'll stop them. So has this happened within the last few years or so?
No, I don't want to hear any jokes.
Oh, I didn't ask if you wanted to hear it. I asked if anyone has started to tell what sounded like a racist joke and you had to intervene and say, hey, I don't.
No. somebody started to tell what I thought was an anti-Semitic joke, and in fact it was, and I let it pass, even though, it was like, I don't like jokes that are at the expense of people. It's not right. It's not right. And so I don't think I know anyone in my personal life who would try to tell me a racist joke, or who would even think a racist joke was funny. I don't know people like that anymore. I live in a pretty insulated, liberal, quote, liberal context. So I don't have to hear that stuff anymore. I don't have to, the way I grew up was, I realized, what happened, we got a television. When I was in fifth grade, we got a television, and oh my God, there was the outside world. And there were people sitting at Woolworths, black students sitting at the counter at Woolworths being savaged. And I knew, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to see that scene and not know who the heroes were. The heroes were those black students. That's who the heroes were. I knew that. And
right.
nothing around
Hang on a
me.
second, Miss Boyd. Yeah. That's great and all, but you deviated from the racist jokes way far. See, and that's the thing. You say I interrupt you, but every time you deviate so far from the question, I just have to stop at a certain point, because it's like, man, I have other questions, and you're just kind of rambling a bit. The Susan Smith, because I want to tie that in, that you've given us some of your South Carolina context with all of this, and I want to point out for listeners, don't you think for a second Gus T has been lax or not listening to all of these suggestions that she and or other white people are just idiots about racism, that they don't have to think about it. And all. Matter of fact, Susan Smith, does she seem like she was ignorant about the dynamics of racism, white supremacy, what it means to be white? Did Susan Smith seem ignorant at 24? You became aware of this case in 1994?
I think Susan Smith was a grown child who didn't understand anything, and did a very race thing because she knew it would fly. As she ran from that lake to that first house, it was about a quarter mile, because I was there. I went and did all of that to try to understand what had happened. In that quarter mile, she decided to do what she had been taught and lie. And, the bad part is, the children could have probably been saved if she had said the truth.
I do want to get to the children. This is important. You hopping ahead now. Wait a minute, Miss Boyd. We got to get to that. That's important. But we rewind just to the question, because we can slow this one down a little bit for the details, because that's maximum important what you just said for the Susan Smith part. You said... Right.
She knew it would fly. If she said a black man kidnapped her children, that would fly.
Just slow down. You talk too fast, Miss Boyd. You talk too fast. Slow down. You said... said she knew it would fly. And originally, when you were speedballing those words out, you said she did what she was taught. She goes down to the lake. Boom, I'm going to get rid of these little white children. And what am I do? Because I don't want to get in trouble. What am I doing? Black dude did it. Yes. OJ. Go. OJ took it. OJ took it. I mean, really. Now, my question again was she ignorant? She was 24. She's not, she didn't graduate from Clemson. We read about her. I don't think she graduated from University of South Carolina. Go Gamecocks. I don't think she had,
she worked in a grocery store.
Winn-Dixie, come on. I don't think she was a Rhodes Scholar. I don't think she had years of critical race study at 24.
But she knew if she said a black man took her children, that it would fly. She absolutely knew it. She knew it from the time she was old enough to understand anything.
Come on. That's what I'm saying right there. Right. You're going too fast for us, Miss Boyd. We need to slow it down. You're going too fast, because that's super important. And that's what I'm saying. If Susan Smith, who is not, the brightest bulb on the lamp, not the sharpest knife in the drawer, that's what they say.
Nope.
If that's true, but even you just said she got this from 7, 5, maybe from Alex and Michael's age. I don't know, but she got this very young.
From the time, everywhere. It's in the air. It's in the air we breathe. racism is everywhere.
Now, that's one, Miss Boyd. I will push back because I pushed back for years. That is a metaphor. Yeah. And I say it's not the air. That's oxygen. What is informing Susan Smith, you, all the people on the planet about what it means to be white? Really, it goes back to that question that I asked before that you wouldn't answer. Tell us some of them racist jokes. That right there. Hang on a second. This is important. Hang on. You're interrupting again. Hang on. That, not the air, those racist jokes, that is a massive component of how Susan Smith, you told us, you said, my family, we come sit down to have our nice Southern meal and eat our dinner or whatever we're going to do, okra and all the rest of it. And did you hear the new one about the Negro? And that, not the air, not the atmosphere, other white people, they inform you. Even that lie, that's not in the air. That blame a Negro. Oh my God, that is even for this type of thing specifically, that I don't really want these children anymore. What to do? Let's see. Orphanage, give them away. I just blame it on Lyra. Yeah. Bonnie Sweet. We talked amazing the number of cases it is. So all of that to say, it doesn't make sense. You said it a bunch of times this evening to say that white people don't think about race. They don't think about being white. They're ignorant. They're not informed. Man, Susan Smith is super informed about racism, white supremacy.
You're right.
Immediately.
Yeah, I understand your point. Yeah.
Come on. Now, yeah. Thank you for being truthful. Just following logic. Just following logic, man. Now, the reporting on all of this, I don't know. Let me, before I get to the reporting, when you heard all of this, were you still living in South Carolina, or had you gone to Vermont?
No. I was in New York, working for the Village Voice.
Okay. So when you started hearing all of this, you still got family and you got all your South Carolina connects. Did you believe Susan Smith when you first heard her?
No. No, nobody in their right mind would think a black man is going to kidnap two white children in South Carolina and get anywhere. No, it's crazy. It was crazy from the start. But then you got this little sweet-looking white girl sobbing and saying, this is what happened. And it's like nobody wants to say, you lying. They did drag the lake twice because they thought she might be lying. They didn't go far enough out. But, yeah, she, yes, she did what she knew would work. And it did work. But I didn't believe it from the start. No, I did not. And, I think a lot of people didn't believe it. The police didn't quite believe it. That's why they were dragging the lake. And by day 2, she was so drugged up with sedatives and everything. She'd just stagger out in front of the cameras and cry and plead. And that poor little boy that she was married to, thinking that he was doing the right thing, standing beside her, she'd killed his children, She meant to go in the lake with the children. That's, I think, what happened. She meant to commit suicide with the children. But, you can try to chop your head off with an axe and you're going to duck. So your head's going to duck all by itself. And I think, I feel fairly confident that she was trying to commit suicide and she ended up jumping out of the car. I took the car out there and rolled it down that ramp over and over, trying to understand what had happened to her. Because I had her handwritten confession. It was really interesting to try to get inside her head that way. And what else interested me a lot about the case was that there was a 2-hour window there in Susan's life that was blank. And if her mother had been home, this wouldn't have happened. There was her husband who was divorcing her. He had his girlfriend following Susan everywhere. And she had seen Susan go home, so Susan went home and took the children out of the car seats. And so Tiffany went home and wasn't following Susan. And Susan called her mother and said, "Can I come over?" And because her husband had told her that he had the goods on her. And what he meant was that he found that proof that she was having this affair with this guy in town. Because, they all were like a 1950s soap opera, And she thought that he knew her real secret, which was that she'd been having sex with her stepfather since she was 12, and that would have wrecked her family, wrecked everything. So that was a really serious secret. And there was another secret. And so she didn't know what had come out, but that's what she thought her husband had found out. So she just wanted to go sit with her mama for a couple hours where she could feel safe. And her mama said, I got to go to the Pee Wee football game with your brother's kids, and I'll be home at 9 o'clock. It was 7 o'clock when Susan called her, and by 9 o'clock, the children were dead. Susan got out of the car with the children in her arms on this little bridge. Now, that would have been a big mess. To jump off that little bridge, they probably would have just broken their legs or something. And the kids started crying, so she put them back in the car seats. And then she went out to that lake. I went out there at night. It's pitch black out there. You got your headlights, and you got this little ramp going into the water. And she started rolling that car down that ramp over and over, and finally she let it go. And I think she thought she was going to stay in it, and she didn't. And then she took off. And there comes the racism. She took off, and I know what I'll do. I'll say a black man kidnapped my children. And she made up where it had happened. She came up with quite a tale,
Oh, yeah.
With quite a tale.
We read in detail. I guess my question Katherine Massey Book Club, we read Sins of the Mother, which goes into detail about the case, and went back through some of the old articles, and they gotten even newer footage now with the recent parole where she almost got out. But the portion about this being, or at least a potential suicide for she, and then she's going to die with the children, I have not seen any evidence that she, that night, attempted to take her own life. Like, I heard she was going to go jump off the bridge, children started crying, so she scratch that, we go down to the lake. I haven't heard any evidence that she was wet, that I was in the car and we got halfway in and I changed my mind. Like, nothing. And in fact, the evidence about her putting the bridal gown, the wedding photos from she and Dave Smith, her husband, as you said, they were getting divorced and everything, and he's got his girlfriend following her around and trying to get evidence that she's cheating so he can come out better with the divorce and such. Even with all of that, it seems more, I'm just done with this, Dave, I'm moving on. I'm trying to get Tom Finley or whoever else maybe, but I'm just done with this whole part of my life. I don't see any evidence that she herself was going to die or even made any effort at suicide. It just looked like she was getting rid of these children. And even the fact it took so long for the car to sink. She had a lot of time while she's watching. She had a lot of time to consider, like, do I really want to do this? Maybe I should go too, because this is terrible. I could be concocting my OJ Did It story, like all that time. And it's not, I need to go too. Because I'm watching my, it just, none of that washes for me. I just don't see any evidence. And I've heard other people present that theory that they think this was a suicide, that she just, I guess, chickened out personally somehow in there. I don't see any evidence, and frankly, the fact what you said previously, you said this is a sweet white man. So many people emphasize this pretty white girl, pretty white girl, pretty. If this had been Jerome, if this had been Jerome, if this had been David, if this had been OJ, I don't think you or anybody else would be talking about, man, Jerome was going to commit suicide and he just chickened out. I don't think that would be the case at all. I think this is just, honestly, I think this is just caping for a racist white woman.
Oh, the evidence is in the handwritten confession, which I had on the seat beside me when I was out there rolling my car down that ramp trying to understand what she was thinking. It's in the handwritten confession that she wanted to end their lives, and she got out of the car, and then something is missing from the story. But it was probably in her mind,
What was in her mind? Wait a minute. What was in her mind?
But in the handwritten confession, she says that, it becomes clear that she wanted them all to go into the water.
That's what you're saying was in her mind, that she wanted to kill her children?
In the handwritten confession, which I think we printed in the Village Voice, she drew little hearts over her eyes. I mean, she was a child. And she did a horrible, horrible thing that she can never undo. Never undo.
Just so that we clear though, but when you said you think that was in her mind, just what explicitly do you think was in her mind? The killing her children part, do you think was in her mind, or?
I don't know. I think that being suicidal was certainly in her mind. And, if you're the person in charge of children and you're going to take your own life, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's very easy to come to the conclusion that you're going to take your children with you. It happens. That's a pretty common story in suicides that people kill their children too. I don't know what happened out there, but I don't think that she was smart enough to do that on purpose. I really don't think so. She was just killing time till her mama got home, and she lost control of the situation, and then she did something horrific by blaming this mythical black man who had kidnapped her 2 white children. What? He didn't want to take time to get them out of the car? I'm sorry. That does not fly.
He was going to do a ransom, Miss Boyd. That's what it was. He was going to call in like a day or two later and say, you're going to give Leroy $500,000 and all the KFC coupons you can find, or you're not going to get Alex. And she was going to add that on later. But just in my view, you said the only thing that I heard was her letter. This is a racist who has lied. Hang on a second. Right on, whatever. Her handwritten document. This is someone who has lied throughout this process. Forgive me if I'm not going to accept her handwritten so-called confession as this is 100% valid. No, I'm going to do the same thing and see if this vibes with evidence. And I keep coming back to, no, you cannot tell me that this is an ignorant white person, here we go again, who didn't think all this through and she was just stupid. But how did the wedding photos and the gown get it? Like, that is what they call that P word, not privilege, premeditation. You thought about
what wedding
this.
photos? I don't know what you mean.
Oh man, she put her wedding album with she and Dave. That was a big part of the trial. You don't remember that? Tommy Pope, he went and brought that because she put that in the trunk, and he said that this was like she was trying to get rid of this whole part of her life so that she could go, and if it's, get Tom Finley or whomever, she's trying to talk to somebody else or whatever. But either way, me and Dave Smith are through. We're getting divorced, and I'm just done. I'm getting rid of the children and everything connected with this. I know it's been 30 years, but that to me is massive, and I think it is important that, because they got pictures. It's not like they just talk about this, and you can go and see this from the courtroom of the wedding photo that was in the car and her wedding dress that was in the car. When people start caping for her.
I didn't know that.
You probably forgot. It's been a long time. You probably forgot.
No. I only went to the last week, the trial. I only went to the part of the trial that had to do with whether they were going to try her or not. That was the part of the trial I went to.
Oh, the sentencing. Okay. Well, that's important too. That's important too.
Yeah.
But either way, they did. Well, I guess if you're hearing this for the first time, yeah, that was really important. I thought that is such a really massive. Important. I mean, because that's premeditation. That's not I didn't, like you were saying, I was going to go see my mom and I don't know what to do and I'm twiddling my thumbs. I thought about this and I had some sort of plan, cockamamie it may be, but I got some sort of plan about what I'm trying to execute here. And there we go. That's what I'm saying. The evidence doesn't match up for that. And again, she wasn't wet. When she goes to the house to tell them that OJ ran off with her car and children, they didn't say she was sopping wet, that she was in the lake and, she looked like she was half submerged or even tried to get those children. None of that.
And she's wearing Tom Finley's sweatshirt.
That's right. That's the boyfriend for listeners who aren't familiar. Tom Finley is the, I guess, lover that I guess she felt jilted, and he wrote her this letter allegedly that, we're going to break up and it's not going to work, and you got these children and all that.
When I said there was a second secret, the second secret was that she had sex with his father.
Right.
If that came out, the town was going to fall apart,
I got to push back. I already mentioned my man, Strom Thurmond. Now, I don't know what your information about him. Every time I mention Strom Thurmond, it is as a racist child rapist. We read Essie Mae Washington Williams' Dear Senator in our book club. I'm so glad that I did. Every time his name comes up, I hammer him. He is a racist child rapist, and he is the worst kind to lie, to go out in public. Same thing I've been saying before. Lying white people to go out in public, stay away from the Negro, they're going to rape our daughters, and you're raping a black child and producing children with them like he is a total disgrace. But I bring that up. That seemed like a lot of people were aware. Strom got a taste for the dark oak, and he didn't have it. That seemed like people that talked about that in the newspaper for decades while he was alive. This was kind of a known secret because white people do this, have sex with their Negro slaves, particularly their Negro children. This has been going on since Thomas Jefferson and Sally Hemings. So I do not, even, man, you could even come back and take this. I do not see any evidence that white people have it. This is like 2 years before Mary Kay Letourneau, too, which we just talked about. But I see no evidence that, and in fact, even Bev Russell, her stepdad, where this bombshell that's going to mess up the whole family, all of that had been exposed before. They had already brought that up, and people said that he was molesting her. And the family, Susan Smith, said, I'm not going to cooperate with the investigation. The family dealt with it privately and moved on. So I even reject that if it had come out that this sexual molestation or whatever you want to call it between her stepdad and Susan Smith had continued even after she married David Smith, I guess some people might have been upset, but I mean, it's just, oh, that again. All right, we already talked about it. Yeah. I mean, it can't be something that you've already heard.
Can I ask you something? Are you sure, I mean, that was in the trial? Because I didn't go to the first 2 weeks of the trial. That it was that she had her wedding pictures and wedding dress in the trunk of that car?
Oh, yeah. If you want me to go, there's a book about this, The Sins of the Mother, where they talk about that. And in fact, it's in the documentary, Unthinkable. They did like a retrospective. It's like 90 minutes, but they talk to like all the important people. Tommy Pope is in it, and I don't think Susan Smith. Oh, David Smith is in it. All the important people, the Sheriff Wells, all the people that, were involved. But yeah, they talk about that. The wedding dress, they show it. In fact, they pull it out. They show the wedding photos that, she was going to give her. That's why I say all the caping, all of the caping for Susan Smith in this case is just massive racism. And this poor white, get out of here. She is the most trifling. Even your article title, the one specifically for the Oxford American, it's called "Who Killed Susan Smith?" The decision to try Susan Smith was extraordinary. She had already confessed to drowning her 2 sons and for more than 6 months had offered to plead guilty and accept life imprisonment. Was this your title choice, or was this a collaborative effort? Who picked Who Killed Susan Smith?
Oh, it's just an attention grabber. Nobody killed Susan Smith. Susan Smith killed her children and wrecked her family. And I mean, that's just true. It's an unusual case where the witnesses for the prosecution and the witnesses for the defense were the same people.
Mm.
I mean, that's like a lot about the trial was interesting, but that's a stupid title. And by the way, in the new issue, we're going to put we are putting The Enormous Mother: Reflections on Susan Smith. We are putting that in the new edition of the Redneck Way of Knowledge. And we're not, I mean, the part about the trial is not good enough. I mean, the writing's not good enough for me to want to put it in. But even in that piece, you can see the embedded racism. They didn't want to let me in the trial because I was from the Village Voice. And then the people from ABC heard them stopping me and said, wait a minute, are you the person who wrote the piece in The Voice? I said, yeah. They said, and they turned around and said, she's with ABC. And so I got to go into the trial that way. And that woman who had tried to stop me coming in, she knelt behind where I was sitting, knelt, and said, oh, I didn't know you were Glenn McConnell's cousin. Because, he's like considered a kind of archetypal white supremacist in South Carolina. and his mother and my mother were sisters. I drove him to school every week when we were children. But even that, even Glenn as that kind of archetype. His personal story is more complicated than that. He's just a sentimentalist about you ever see Gone with the Wind? You ever see? Talk about a monument. Talk about a monument to white supremacy. You should see Gone with the Wind.
Quitting time. Yes, ma'am. I'm Margaret. I lived in Atlanta. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Margaret Mitchell. Yes. Wow. Get my focus back.
I mean, Glenn. I think Glenn took, Gone with the Wind as history, and he felt really bad about the white boys that were killed in the war.
Oh man.
And that's why that's what all that Confederate reenactment stuff is about. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's beyond ridiculous, the Confederate reenactment stuff.
I would say it's pretty serious. I mean, it's pretty serious.
And it is ridiculous.
But I have a question. I have a question that would tie into all of that, because you talk about this so-called Southern culture. You're South Carolina native. And this is from that piece, the Who Killed Susan Smith. And I thought the title was ridiculous. Well, I won't even say ridiculous. I thought this was another example of racism and caping for a white woman, because this is at the same time. I know there is no article from this time period titled Who Killed Orenthal James Simpson. I know that article does not exist because OJ wasn't killed. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Nobody killed Susan Smith. She is not a victim. And again, an article like this, a title like this, both would not exist if a black person had actually done this, male or female. Even if David Smith had done this, this article wouldn't exist.
You're completely right about this. You're completely right about this. I agree with you completely.
But the point I wanted to read.
It's interesting to talk to you.
Let me
just say one more.
Oh, go ahead.
Can I? Well, I want to say one more thing. It's very interesting to talk to you because you've changed my mind about what Susan was doing, and I wish I had known about the wedding dress when I wrote the piece. I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, the Tony Brown thing. At the end, he got them to punch their little things again, and a lot of people agreed with me by the end.
Well, hey, hopefully the same thing will happen today. We should have done that at the beginning. Ask people who thinks all white people are racist, and see what, and then ask them at the end. Hopefully, we'll do the same thing today. People can stop, because hey, I added that to the 10 stops I said at the end of every program. Now, stop saying not all white people are racist. It's not true. It's totally nonsense. Yeah. It's not helping us solve this problem. I say it at the end of every program. So hopefully we have the same success today, Miss Boyd. The portion I wanted to read, though, so this is right. It's technically the third page of the article, but I guess from the magazine issue of the Oxford American, it's the page number in there. I don't know what page it is. So it's page 3 of the article, but it reads, it's page 36 of the magazine. So the article, it reads, Southerners are generally polite and unpretentious. Perhaps it's too hot to be otherwise. In Charleston, shout to Dylan Roof, even traffic jams are characterized by an, oh no, you go first, quality. Since the natives are too gracious to blow their horns, I was not entirely surprised that the trial was marked by very good manners. And I'll stop there. You're going to give some of the dynamics. But I read that, and I guess you take it either way. South Carolina's finest, Dylan Roof, or Strom Thurmond. What do you mean when you say Southerners are generally polite? What do you mean?
I said they're generally polite, except when they're not. In the redneck way of knowledge, I said, when they're not, they might shoot you with a shotgun. There's no. And you can tell it from talking to me that Southern culture is about storytelling. You tell a story to answer a question, and analysis. Southerners, the most abstract Southerners get is how to bet on football pools and stuff like that. They're not abstract balance. They're textbooks, and they're not abstract thinkers. And it took me a long time to understand that storytelling is a form of It's a form of intelligence. So the reason I write the stories that I write is that I'm trying to show stuff that can't really be reduced beyond what I've reduced it to. And you are absolutely right that Who Killed Susan Smith was a cheap shot, and it shouldn't have been on that story. That's really right. And do I think all white people are enmeshed in racism and benefit from it? Absolutely, I do. Do I think that some of it is conscious? Yes, I do. Conveniently conscious.
Got that B word, benefit again. I even, much obliged for the honesty, Miss Boyd, Blanche Boyd, Context of White Supremacy. Even the portion about the politeness, Southerners are generally polite and unpretentious. That, like I said, that really Strom Thurmond, Dylan Roof, all that would count, but George Stinney, Pitchfork, Ben Tillman, we read his autobiography in the book club. I think of Southern culture, I do not think of Southern charm and politeness. I think of lynching and white supremacy racism. Right. That's Southern culture, not being polite. It maybe because white people aren't even polite to their niggers in the South. So maybe, I guess, if you want to say white people being polite to other white people, because you're not even polite. They weren't even polite to you at the courtroom. You just told her. You had your little press badge. I'm with the Village Voice. Well, get on out of here, you Yankee carpetbagger. That's not polite. I even take issue with that because I'm just looking at the evidence. What did you just tell us? What's Southern culture? We go out and do Civil War reenactments. So you are pretending to engage in battles where hundreds of thousands of people were killed. Crazy. That's not polite either, because Southern culture is racist, as is white culture. That would be the thing to highlight. Not, I wouldn't even know what to point at. Like, they don't honk there. Is Alex Murdoch polite? Like, come on. Like, come on. What are we talking about?
Can you believe that story?
What are we talking about?
I think, let me quote myself in The Redneck Way of Knowledge. Southerners are polite except when they're not. And when they're not, they might shoot you with a shotgun or chase you around the yard with a hatchet. And that is Southern culture. It is violent in a second. But it's real polite, right? They don't argue. They just go get a hatchet and kill you with it, or drive you into the lake, or hang you, whatever, you know? But the rest of the time, they're very polite.
Man. I don't think Strom Thurmond was polite most of the time either, raping children or saying, stay away from the niggers, stay away. I don't think that's polite either. I mean,
well, no, it's not polite. It's horrible. I mean, we couldn't, I wish we could talk more, because I think we would really like each other. And I think I would learn a lot from you. And it's possible you would learn maybe something from me about where white blind spots are, because I know I have them. I know all white people have blind spots about racism.
There we go. The consistent patterns. See that right there. There seems to be, what I note, there seems to be a tremendous reluctance, or even it is a willful lie. You all can take, it probably might even be a little bit of both, for white people to acknowledge, hey, individuals classified as white, we are dedicated to practicing racism, period. It's not a blind spot. It's not a we're poorly informed. It's not we don't think about it, because all those are standard lies that people say all the time. It's no, Strom Thurmond, the problem was not that he didn't think about being white. The problem was not that he wasn't informed. The problem was, I am dedicated to practicing racism, and I'm going to spend a whole century investing every breath of my body into practicing white supremacy racism. That's what it means to be white. That's what Susan Smith learned, and nothing about that process is about we're ignorant, we don't understand, I didn't know that I'm white. We even had Tommy Curry, he said, for all this talk of white blind spots and ignorant, their ignorance never results in, oh man, Blanche, you hired all niggers at the bank. What is wrong with you? You got a blind spot in your racism. That's never how it works. Their so-called blind spot always results in, oh man, I got a blind spot. Did you know I live in a neighborhood with no niggers? Do you know I work at the bank in hiring, and I don't hire no niggers? Man, I got a big blind spot. That's not a blind spot, and it doesn't even make sense. It would be much more.
Well,
Don't talk
in
to
the
us
North,
like
you hire tokens.
That in the world, maybe they hire so-called tokens, maybe not, because it seems like under the current administration, we don't even hire so-called tokens. Get on out of here, Letitia James. Isn't that in the North? Letitia James, New York Attorney General? That's in the North, I thought. Yeah, get on out of here. The question I was...
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's a Nazi. I mean, Trump's a Nazi. That's certainly white supremacy.
I don't even use that sort of terminology. They do that racial narrowing like it's just... See, they can get real comfortable saying Trump's a Nazi. They won't do that with just the regular old rank and file everyday white. She won't say, Blanche Boyd, I am a Nazi. I practice racism, white supremacy. Trump practices racism, white supremacy. Really no difference. He's more powerful than me, but I mean, hey, end of the day, racism is racism. That's the way we should be thinking about this problem.
He's trying to make racism worse. He's trying to make racism worse by pretending
do you think,
there's no such thing as
Ms.
people
Boyd,
of color.
do you think it's logical for non-white people to think you are probably doing the same thing?
I don't know. I hope not. I hope not. I hope not. I mean, I think of myself as so far from wanting to reinforce white supremacy. Let me give you an example. I taught writing for many years in a predominantly white school.
Where at? South Carolina? Where was the school?
No, Connecticut College.
Oh, okay.
But there were three different women of color who were in my classes, and I advised them not to major in English. I said, if you major in English, you're going to gradually feel like your whole being has been erased. You're going to feel erased. So major in African American studies, because it's all about white people. The canon, the so-called literary canon, it's white people. It's white with a token black. We all love James Baldwin, but it's all the whole literary canon is both racist and sexist. So, of these three, it really is.
Can I push back to say, well, hey, how do we change that? We get black people and non-white people to become English majors to call that out, and then maybe they could even write some new stuff so we have new things to read. Isn't that the way to change it?
Well, the way I said to change it was go study African American studies and come study writing with me, and I'll give you stuff to read that's not going to feed you into what is racist in the canon. And so one of them is a novelist, and one of them is a professor and a published poet with a serious, quote, literary reputation. And, I'm so proud of them. But I knew to tell them, do not major in English. You're going to feel like who you are is erased.
Wow. Have they made any progress from when all this happened? Have things improved if you're a black person and you want to major in English?
Oh, yeah. It's much improved now. But the school would hire professors who were black, right? And they would find that they were swimming in institutional racism, blind racism. People didn't understand that they were racist.
There we go.
And they were, I remember this woman, she'd been hired in feminist studies, and she said to me, man, I'm going back to Georgia. I said, I don't blame you. At least go back where racists know what they are, and black and white people get along because we have to. Because we have to in the South. We're not, black and white people in South Carolina seem to me to get along pretty well. And you have to. It's not like where you can have these big segregated neighborhoods like you do in the North.
You just said that you grew up in an area of Charleston where there were no Negroes. You just told us that.
Well, not only that, black veterans it was built for veterans of World War II, this little neighborhood, and black veterans weren't allowed. Did you know the GI Bill was not available to black men?
Yes, ma'am, but I also know you just told us this evening I lived in a racially restricted part of Charleston, which has tons of niggers, but I didn't see them where I lived because we didn't have no niggers in our neighborhood. Did you just tell us that this evening?
I didn't know it.
So that,
yes, and that's exactly right.
That sort of, we can pause right there. That's what I mean. Like, white people do this sort of thing all the time. They just, all I can conclude, that is a bold-faced lie. It cannot be black people and white people in a system of white supremacy in South Carolina. Pitchfork, Ben Tillman. No, we studied a lot of South Carolina. George Stinney. At that time, they did not get along with white people. Okay. Pitchfork, Ben Tillman. We did not get along with white people, white and black people. Okay, move forward. Strom Thurmond. We did not get along, unless you consider white men raping black children getting along. That's not getting along. Moving forward. Dylan Roof. That is not getting along in South Carolina. That's what I'm saying. Stop lying. That's not getting along. That's the local system of white supremacy racism in South Carolina. I don't know. Maybe they have more contact. Dylan Roof did come and sit with them in that church for a little while. Maybe they don't. You said you didn't grow up around niggers. I'm sure they have. I don't think Alec Murdoch. I've seen where they live. I don't think it was a whole lot of niggers around the Alec Murdoch estate.
Nope.
That's what I'm saying. Stop lying. Just be true. And it's a lot of black people in South Carolina. They got lots of little black boys at Clemson now. Ben Tillman rolling over in his grave about that. Did all that energy to keep them out of there. And Strom Thurmond. How in the world would it be possible for white, and what I said before, a tiny population of white people in South Carolina, how would they have an enclave where it's all white amongst all these black people? System of white supremacy racism. It's not happenstance.
And money.
It's
and
not.
Money. And money.
It's not even about the money. It's not even about the money, because if you're a poor white person, we heard Pitchfork Ben Tillman, he was rallying poor white people. He wasn't about class, and I'm just going to get my poor white brothers and my poor black brothers. No, I'm with my poor white farmers. I'm an agrarian. We're going to get rid of these niggers. We're not going to let them go down to Clemson, and we're going to get this thing right. And they're not going to go to school with your little boys and girls. That's what I'm saying. Like, just be truthful. Stop all the lying. In fact, even to get back to Susan Smith, because you put in that report about forgiveness and moving forward. Oh, my Lord.
I did?
Yes, you did. Let me get in here and write it. Make sure it's from the correct. Oh, it's from the Enormous Woman report. Let me go get the other one.
The Enormous Mother. The Enormous Mother.
Yes, Enormous Mother, because you talked about how the town wanted peace and that they wanted to move forward from all of this. This is another one. George Stinney. White people in South Carolina don't talk about forgiving George Stinney now, and he's been dead about 80 years, 14. I even brought up O.J. Simpson was concurrent with Susan Smith. O.J.'s been dead for a year. He was exonerated. White people don't talk about forgiving him either. Susan Smith admitted to killing her children, and she practiced racism and lied about it. Why would she be at the top of the list for, well, we need to forgive? Why? Why would that be?
O.J. Simpson was exonerated?
He was found not guilty.
That's different from exonerated.
Okay. He was found not guilty. Acquitted. There we go.
Yeah.
He was acquitted. He was acquitted.
Oh. Yeah, he was acquitted. That's the legal system. But exonerated to me would mean that there was proof that he didn't do it. That's what I thought you were saying. I was like, wow, this is something I really didn't know. Though, yeah, we all know he was acquitted. I think everybody knows that. But, you know, I really hear what you're trying to get me to understand. I really hear it. And I feel like it's very useful to me. It's uncomfortable, but it's very useful to me. And I want to say, again, that by the time of that talk at Tony Brown's Journal, I was stunned when you put that on the air. At the end, when they ran that thing again, a lot of people agreed with me that all white people were racist. They just can't help it. We can't help it. It's you know, it's built into the system. It's built into the way we're raised. It's built into everything. And you can't say people and people of color. You've already said something crazy. You've got to say white people. And man, you say white people to white people and they don't want to hear it. We don't want to hear it. We don't want to hear it. And that's this huge reaction going on now. I mean, it's like, we're going to pretend we never were racist, that the Constitution did not say black people counted as 3/5 of one human. We're not going to say that was in the Constitution. We're going to pretend that all people are equal. Try to get a bank loan. Redlining is real. But, blacks are kept out of white neighborhoods. It's still real. All of that stuff is still real. I know that. And it makes me want to put my head on the desk and just say.
I did, just because this was one where we deviated with the O.J. Simpson and exonerated, where she got a little flabbergasted about that, where he was acquitted.
I did.
Do you hear any talk of forgiving O.J. Simpson, who was acquitted? Because I keep drawing that parallel. Why are we talking about forgiving Susan Smith? She admitted killing her children, and then
I didn't talk about forgiving her.
The article is titled "Who Killed Susan Smith?" and the whole tone of this report is, man, that district attorney, Tommy Pope, he ought to be shamed for looking at the death penalty for this poor, sweet white woman. That's the tone of the whole report. You go through how she was a victim of abuse. Bev Russell, that her dad abused her. They go and get all these people to talk about how she was such a great mom and people loved her. The town would be crushed if she died. Like, oh my gosh, we would just fall out and die. Like, what? Why is all of that for someone? All the time and money she wasted for 2 weeks, the racism and black people that were impacted, the impact on her family. They even quoted from people saying that it would tear the family up if they killed her. Susan Smith already destroyed the family, killing the children. She didn't have no thoughts about them before she threw them in the lake with the wedding gown and wedding photos. So all I can conclude, this is more racism, and particularly because white people, Dylan Roof, he goes and shoots up that church. 2 days later, it's, I forgive you, Dylan. And they played that around the world, where white people, and a part of it is the religion. You talk about that religion of white supremacy, not Christianity, is to forgive.
The white cop asked him if he was hungry.
Hang on a second. Is to forgive white people, especially for practicing racism, but forgive any sort of transgressions, abuse of black people. Well, we got to forgive. That how they taught slaves in Charleston to behave. We're going to terrorize them forever, so just forgive. Susan said, well, we forgive. We got to forgive. And that's the same thing I say. O.J. Simpson, white people to this day don't talk about forgiving O.J. Simpson, who was acquitted, not exonerated. Same thing. If Leroy had done this, a black dude in a toboggan, ain't no way in the Christ you or anybody else would have wrote some report talking, well, we should forgive Leroy. Union, we're not going to be able to move on as a town if we give Leroy the death penalty. Are you serious? Like, come on, Miss Boyd. That doesn't even, and it sounded like you're not remembering. The whole tone of the article, I can read out specific parts, is forgive sweet Susan Smith, let her plead or let her serve life in prison. And
well, that's what the trial was about. This whole week that I was there was all about, we're going to forgive Susan Smith and put her in jail for the rest of her life. And I was trying to make the trial real to the reader, not passing a judgment about it. I was trying to make it real, that the whole tone of it was, here's Tommy Pope wants to say this is a terrible woman, and one person after another got up there and said, that's not right, that's not right, that's not right. And if you execute Susan, part of me will die with her. What? That's how these people felt, how these white people felt, yeah. And did you notice that everything in the trial was white? It's...
What do you mean everything in the trial was? You mean all the witnesses who testified?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Except for the guard, one of the guards. One of the guards.
Oh, that's right. You did say that. She said she wasn't ready. Well, one, I do want to say, you said you made this article to make it real for folks. I just want to point out the most unreal thing about this article is the bold-face, all capital letter title that is totally inaccurate. who killed Susan Smith. So we start from not reality. But the forgiveness, this is, let me count page. So this is page 4. It reads, many people already thought that Tommy Pope, that again, that's the prosecuting attorney, Tommy Pope's chance of getting a jury to vote for execution was small, especially in Smith's hometown. Sentiment in Union had been very much against Smith immediately after the confession, but in the ensuing months, angers had cooled, and the deeper notions of Christianity, like forgiveness and leaving vengeance to God, became a part of the common voice. And that's the whole tone of the article. I'm saying you, right, as an admitted racist and someone, you've been studying racism all this time, and you left this area to get away from the racism, and now you're coming back. You've already been writing about racism, and the racism is at the center of this case, that she lied and blamed it on a fictitious Negro, and people picked that up and ran with it. Wait a minute. Why are we now at this? Even that should have been explored. Why is this town at the point of forgiveness? I keep saying, if Leroy had done this, Leroy could have been born in Union. His grandparents could have been born in Union. His great-great-great-great-great-grandparents could have been slaves in Union. Ain't no way in the Christ you would have brought your white hind parts to Union and wrote some article saying who killed Leroy, and the town of white people would not have sat around. Well, we got to forgive Leroy, and we'll just be. They wouldn't have dragged Leroy's elementary school teacher out there, and oh, I remember him, and he was a sweet little boy, and I'll just die. Get out of here. They would have killed Leroy, and that would have been it. Yeah. Only reason we got all this is because it's a white woman. And like I said, the emphasis, everybody that talks about Susan Smith, they keep saying she's so pretty. She's so pretty. She's so pretty. Oh, sure. I am a heterosexual male. I like females. I do not think Susan Smith is pretty. I've been conditioned, gone with the wind, to think white women are the most beautiful thing ever. I think Susan Smith is a really homely looking white chick. Then 1994 and now everyone has to talk about, oh, she's, and the reason I'm pointing this out, I even think if this had been Lakeisha, one of those young ladies that you met in school and told them don't be an English major because your blackness will be erased, your identity will be erased. If they had done this, we wouldn't have had all these, you wouldn't have wrote no article talking about, oh, she's so sweet and pretty, and everybody wouldn't have done that. It would have just been the focus on the crime. She should die, death penalty for Lakeisha, and there we go. I'm saying that all of it.
I didn't say she was sweet and pretty. I mean, that's not my opinion. I was reporting.
Right, but the ubiquity that everybody's reports, whether it's the person writing, making their own assessment that, yes, I think Susan Smith is pretty, or it's so, as you say, in the atmosphere, so many people have to comment and acknowledge, yes, Susan Smith is pretty. I'm saying this is a pattern of racism. We just read Mary Kay Letourneau raping a non-white child, another racist white woman. Same thing. This is a criminal white woman. Every story, she's so pretty and beautiful and lovely and pretty and beautiful. Now I can even rewind. Let's hop states. Mississippi, Emmett Till. When they get to talking about that no-count white woman, Carolyn Bryant Donham, who participated in that lynching and murder of a child, same age as George Stinney, 14 years old, they do the exact same thing, and that's 70 years ago. We got the beautiful and lovely Raymond Carolyn Bryant, because she wasn't Donham then, so the beautiful and lovely Carolyn Bryant. All of this, white women are the most beautiful. That even becomes a part of the reason. Well, you know, Carolyn Bryant didn't lie and kill no Emmett Till. She's so beautiful, he probably did wolf whistle at her. And Susan Simmons, she's so beautiful. And yeah, I guess she did lie and practice racism, but she's so beautiful and sweet. Yeah, Mary Kay did rape that black child, but you know, yeah, she's so beautiful. She got them cute lips. That is a massive part of race, and particularly in a culture that says people like you, Blanche Boyd, white women aren't racist. We've been trained to think if anybody is racist, it's the man. It's not Mary Kay. It's not Susan Smith. It's not Blanche Boyd. It's white men. It's not Margaret Mitchell, where I say, oh no, you can't have a system of white supremacy without Margaret Mead, Blanche Boyd, white women. Your thoughts?
Did you ever read a writer called Jamaica Kincaid? She wrote a piece called "If Mammies Ruled the World," making fun of Gone with the Wind. I used to teach this piece because it is so funny. It had never occurred to me to make fun, because making fun of things is very powerful. To make fun of Gone with the Wind. She shot fish in a barrel writing about Gone with the Wind. I taught that piece and I would read it out loud because it made me laugh every time. Yes, we are swimming in it. I'm so glad we are not including that second piece about the trial in the book, because you're making me think. I wrote an apology for Susan Smith. That the whole town did. The whole town wrote a kind of apology for all the things that had come together and caused Susan Smith to kill her children. Not to think Susan Smith did this. Susan Smith did this. That is missing from the piece. And I think you're right about that. And we're not going to reprint that piece. But The Enormous Mother, Reflections on Susan Smith, that one is going to go in the book. I wanted to take my mother to the lake. I did for Mother's Day. And and ask her why she didn't drown us, because I'm a mother and I know how hard it is to have children. And I wanted to tell her basically that what I was taking her there for. I wanted her to understand that I knew how hard it had been to raise the three of us. Now that I had children, I understood. And she did not think my children were her grandchildren because I'm a lesbian. So she didn't think my children were her grandchildren. And so I had a ring made for her with the 3 stones of her children and the 2 stones of the grandchildren she acknowledged. So I did it in her terms. I'm not going to beat up on the ring to make her say, wait a minute, these are your grandchildren too. She didn't think so, and I didn't really care. But, it really is interesting to talk to you, I love how relentless you are. I certainly squirm. But
She said she squirms. All right, come on, Miss Boyd, come on. We have a caller. I want to make time to nab our one caller, but just so that listeners and you, so that people don't think that I've been lying and trying to pull one over on Miss Boyd here, they do have news report. Like I said, you can see the wedding album if you watch the documentary Unthinkable. It's about Susan Smith, so you can see it that way. Whatever.
Okay, I will.
But
that's one of the first things I'm going to do is go watch the documentary.
It's on YouTube and everything. Super easy to find. But this, I'm just reading from online. And I'm reading from AI because I trust this one because I've seen the album. I know it's not lying on this one. So it says, on October 25, Susan Smith drowned her children in 1994. She falsely claimed that her car, she'd been hijacked by a black dude. 9 days later. Okay. Significance of the wedding album. When Smith confessed, she revealed that inside the trunk of her car, along with her children, were her wedding dress and wedding album. Prosecutors argued that by putting her album and dress in the car, Smith was symbolically packing away, their words, her old life, including her marriage to David Smith, to pursue a new relationship. This was presented as evidence that her motive was not a botched suicide attempt, as her defense claimed, but a deliberate act to remove obstacles to her relationship with another man. During a 2024 parole board hearing, prosecutor Kevin Brackett once again highlighted the wedding album, asserting that it demonstrated a cold and selfish intent on Smith's part. I even have to back up because, man, you talked about being relentless. This is one, the fact that you don't know this about the wedding album and you cover this trial, you get an F for your coverage of this case because
yes,
this was massively important. And I know this. I didn't even go to the trial. I didn't even go to South Carolina. And I know this. This is a part of the linchpin. And I'm saying you specifically and all the rest of the lame, tacky white people in South Carolina and beyond who cape for this trifling white B word should be there, but whatever, we're G-rated. This tacky, racist, white heifer, you all cape for her and you didn't even do your diligence as a journalist. This is so sloppy and lame, like, wow, you get equal parts. You're racist, Miss Boyd, and then you are a sloppy journalist, which is another big part of racism. They get these old lame journalists. Do your job. Jeff Toobin did the same thing. Hang on a second. Hang on. You should have did your job. Jeff Toobin did the same thing. He was sloppy and reckless in the coverage of O.J. Simpson, and the slant is always the same. If you can be sloppy doing your journalism, at least I'm going to be sloppy and I'm going to cape for the black dude. Be sloppy and cape for O.J. Don't be sloppy and cape for a racist who drowned 2 white children. Can I get one more on this? Since you sloppy on this one, I'm going to clear my throat and stand up. Not that I care about Alex and Michael, because I don't. They would have grown up to be racist just like their parents. But you're going to be sloppy on this case for sure. White people do not care about children. I'm going to go say you went down and checked out Michael and Alex and you don't even know about the wedding album. That's embarrassing. Did you have comment before we get the call up?
There wasn't a transcript of the first 2 weeks of the trial. There wasn't. I wasn't there, and it was not reported. That was not reported. I read all the coverage. I did my homework. I did all the homework I could, but I didn't know that was not reported. That was not reported at the point of the trial, at the third week of the trial. That had not been reported in the coverage about the wedding dress. But I got to tell you, it makes me think, Jesus Christ, I certainly got this one wrong.
Where are your editors
I didn't have access to that.
This is institutional. One, I'm alleging if I get 5 minutes to sit in the archives, Miss Boyd is lying. I know they said something about that wedding dress and album 1995 when this was being reported, but whatever. Where are the editors at? Nobody looked at this enough to say, wait a minute, what, the wedding? Woo. And all in service of, we're going to cape, excuse, minimize a racist, white child-killing murderer? Like, what? I don't think they would have been that sloppy if it would have been Leroy or Lakeisha if they had put their wedding photos in the trunk. Our caller, victim. I told you I was going to show my hind parts today. Like, woo, come on. Victim. Did you have a question for Miss Boyd?
Yes, sir. Thank you for taking my call, Gus. Miss Boyd, greetings. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Yes, ma'am. I'm a little confused by some of the verbiage you use. Can you clarify that redneck logic, that statement for me real quick?
Redneck logic? Is that what you said?
That? Yes.
I don't. The redneck way of knowledge. Yes. Okay. It's not logic. It's the redneck way of knowledge. It's a stance. Southerners will answer a question with a story. You don't know whether they answered your question or not because they just told you a very good story. The answer if they meant to answer you, the answer will be embedded in the story, and it'll be a more complicated answer than you would get in abstraction. Southerners don't do abstraction. We don't. Storytelling is how culture is preserved in the South, and that's why Southerners are such good writers. I mean, black and white writers in the South, fantastic, because it's a storytelling culture. And that's what I mean by the redneck way of knowledge. It's like Southerners are polite except when they're not, and when they're not, they might shoot you with a shotgun or chase you around the yard with a hatchet, but they're not going to argue with you. It's tell a story or let's get violent. And that, to me, that's redneck. It's very unpretentious. And my mother was very disappointed. She said, honey, why did you call us rednecks? And I said, well, Mama, we're not aristocrats. You know that, right? And I don't think we trash. So what's that leave? I better call us rednecks. And I wanted to talk about that, the way I was raised, I would have never been interested in, I would have tennis or play tennis, listen to classical music or anything like that. I would have thought, oh my God, no. I mean, that redneck culture, country music is redneck culture. Does that answer your question about the redneck way of knowledge? It's a way of understanding the world. It's through stories, is what I meant. Are you still there?
Victim,
Hello?
you still there with us? Let's see. Let me make sure he didn't hit his mute button by accident. Let's see. Oh no, he might have. Let me see. He might have got disconnected. Let's see if we can nab him back with us. Okay, we got it.
That's my good
We got
answer,
it.
and he
We
didn't
got
get to
it.
hear it.
We got it. Did you hear a response,
All
sir?
right.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, I got disconnected. Yes, I heard a response. It's a way of looking at them. Now,
Right.
Ms. Boyd, you said before that you would hope that non-white people didn't think of you as a racist, but from what you've told us today, you grew up in a predominantly white home, predominantly white area, and you said you did not know that you had black people in that area, right? Wouldn't you
Right.
be? And yes, my question is, so would it be logical to think of you and as a racist, white supremacist?
I don't know the answer to that because I don't want to be lumped together with assholes. And there are so many, I mean, white supremacists, to think, conscious white supremacy, no, I don't go there. No.
Okay.
And what I'm trying to point out is something that's wrong with society and wrong with every white person.
Okay.
You know,
I thank you, ma'am. I want to also add, since you don't want to be, I guess, quote unquote, lumped in with other white people, wouldn't it be logical to reveal to us victims of white supremacy what white people talk about when we're not around?
yes, that would probably
Okay.
be very useful.
Okay. Could you tell us some of those racist jokes you heard?
No, I would never perpetuate that stuff. And I haven't heard a racist joke since I was 30 years old. And I don't go there. I don't go there. I don't go there with jokes about women. I don't go there about jokes about Jews. I don't go there about jokes about people of color. I don't do that. I don't even like jokes because they're so dangerous. And, you know, the best way I knew to try to show what was wrong with white culture was to shine the light on myself and my milieu. So let me just say one thing in my own defense here. I was part of a training with the National Black Feminist Organization in 1975 to try to address racism in the women's movement, which was predominantly white. And so, you know, white women just didn't want to hear it.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Ms. Boyd. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. But because I don't have a lot of time and I don't want to waste anyone's time here. So that'll be it for me. Gus, I'll mute my line. Thank you again.
Yeah, thanks for
mute his
calling.
line.
Yeah.
He's wacky. Much obliged. Victim. *61 if other folks have a question that they want to get in. When you said the last time that you think you heard a racist joke, you were 30, you probably were not in South Carolina at that point. Is that true?
Absolutely. I was at dinner with my family.
Oh, the family.
Yep. And my brother was trying to bait me. But he said, I want to tell you this joke. I said, is it a racist joke? He said, well, kind of. I said, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. You do. You know? And it's so stupid. It's so stupid. I love blonde jokes. I mean, men make those around me all the time.
Woo! Jesus, I can't get up. I can't get up. I can't get up. And he said, kinda. What is kinda?
I don't know what you're laughing at now. What's up?
Oh, man. Woo! Gotta laugh to keep from crying. Make sure the person who dialed in, I can get my composure back. Retired firefighter in. You hear that, retired? He's kind of racist. I don't quite say Negro. I can't get up. Retired firefighter in Florida. If you had a question for Blanche Boyd, I'd have kicked myself if I didn't say something about that. We spent all this time talking about white supremacy, racism. Miss Boyd even got sassy with us and said I didn't ask a fair question at the beginning. And her name, Blanche, see if I can I type for the day? Come on. I would have kicked myself if I didn't say something about that directly. Got Miss White Boyd.
Blanche Claire. They both mean white.
Really?
My middle name's Claire. Yeah.
That means white too?
Yeah, well, it means clear, yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
They put
Yeah,
the
it
double.
basically they put the double whammy on me, that's right. That's my grandmother's name, that's why.
You know, hey, even the names. See, that's what I say. It's not the air. It's the racist jokes, the very names that we pass on. That's what all
It's
this
the
is
fabric.
about.
It's
Come
the fabric.
on. Come
it's
on.
The whole fabric, yeah.
Retired firefighter
Yeah.
in Florida. Do you have a question for Miss Blanche Boyd?
Yes, I do. Greetings to the guests. Under a global system of racism, white supremacy, to the guests, what do you think that non-white people are not doing or not doing enough of to solve the problem?
I wish I knew the answer to that. I have no idea. I mean, you know, you got a small minority in the world. White people are a small minority in the world. And all of a sudden, you see in the extreme right now, it's dawned on them they're white. And white people are going to be erased. And so you got this extreme swing to the right wing here. And, you know, that's all about white supremacy. Now it's naked white supremacy. And it wasn't naked before. But now it's naked again. And what can people of color do? I don't know. You know, and I don't know. I wish I did know. You know, I wanted to say something that has kind of haunted me. Dylan Roof, the cop who was taking him to jail, asked him if he was hungry and took him through Burger King. Did you know that? That's horrible. Can you imagine if a black man had shot up a white church, they'd be asking him if he was hungry while they took him to jail? No. They'd have shot him there. Can y'all still hear me?
Were you asking me that question?
I don't know. I was just wanted to bring this up about Dylan Roof. You know, it's beyond horrible. Beyond horrible. It just shows you how deep the racism runs. They asked him if he was hungry. He had just killed all those people, and they want to know if he was hungry and took him to Burger King and then to jail. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Yes, ma'am. I was aware of that.
You know, can I say one more thing? I was just going to ask you.
I was just going to ask you my last question. Do you think the problem can be solved?
No, I don't know how. I think we're headed towards civil war. I really do. I mean, I wrote a book called The Tomb of the Unknown Racist about a woman a lot like me whose brother is a terrorist, a white supremacist terrorist, and she's trying to deal with the fact that this is her blood. Her brother is this man. And everybody thought he was dead, and he's not dead, and his mixed race child, her children have been kidnapped, and, you know, just to try to see what are white people going to do when they realize this stuff is in our own families, or as the host keeps making me see, maybe in my own blood. You know, I don't know. I don't know how to solve it, and I think we're headed for real trouble. I think the militias in the West and in Florida are heavily armed. I mean, I saw a picture of a man with a grenade launcher slung across his shoulder going into a Subway to get a sandwich. That's like, we are dealing with a level of why do you think they put tanks at police stations now? Yeah, I think we're headed for real trouble. And, you know, the good part is people of color are the majority. The bad part is the white people are heavily armed. And I think it's a terrible situation, and I don't know what to do about it. You know, I have children. I say, it's your problem now. I can't I can't fix this. I see it, but I can't fix it. And I don't know what black people could do. I don't know. Look what happened to the Panthers. Jesus. You know, you start saying, no, black people need to get machine guns. You go see a lot of killing, because it's fine for white people to get machine guns, but not for people of color to get machine guns. That kind of, I think big trouble's coming. I do think so, and I hope I'm wrong. Boy, I hope I'm wrong. But yeah, I don't think these white supremacists are going to go down without a fight. They're not going to go down without a fight. They sometimes, if you follow white supremacists, white extremists, and because I was writing about them, I had to follow a lot of them. After their name, they will write DOTR. Do you know what that stands for? Day of the Rope. That's when they're going to hang all people of color, all homosexuals, and all Jews. Day of the Rope. They put it right after their names, DOTR. That's the level of hatred in this white supremacist, heavily armed part of America. I don't know. I mean, I'm 80 years old. I can't fix it. But boy, I see it. I see it. You know what gives me hope, and this will sound crazy to you? Women's professional basketball. And you know why? Because it is controlled by women of color. 80% of the women playing professional basketball identify as women of color. And they have organized, and they elected, what's his name, in Georgia. They had one of Trump's people was going to get the Democratic nomination. And she was the owner of the Atlanta team. And they started researching her, and they came out in T-shirts that said elect Warnock, and they were a major factor in a Democrat, a black Democrat getting elected out of Florida. And because they have control of the WNBA, the Women's Professional Basketball Association, I follow this very closely. I'm sitting here looking on my windowsill are pictures, are bobbleheads of Alyssa Thomas and Dwana Bonner, who were two of the players for the Connecticut Sun. They've now gone to the Phoenix Mercury. But, I go to all these basketball games, and it gives me hope. It gives me hope that when people of color band together, they can accumulate power. Because the WNBA has accumulated some power. You only have to see what's going on with women's basketball to know that this is right. You've got Caitlin Clark, the great white hope. But women's basketball is predominantly, it's one of the places where the playing field is level. Every neighborhood's got a basketball hoop. Even in soccer, white women dominate soccer, but in basketball, basketball, it's a land of opportunity for women of color, and boy, have they stood up and taken it. That's fantastic. Same with all sports where black people are allowed in, because the playing field is level. It's one of the few opportunities that black people have at sports.
Right on for Sister Caitlin Clark. Retired firefighter, did you have another question, or were you satisfied?
I wasn't so much satisfied, and the guest, started going to other places like sports entertainment and that sort of thing. But that's to be expected, I think, from a white person.
Well, I look for reasons to hope. But what can black people do, people of color do about the racism in America, institutionalized and otherwise? I have no idea. I really don't know.
Okay. Retired firefighter, did you have another question, or?
No, sir, I didn't.
Okay.
I wish I had a good answer for you. What?
Right on. Thank you for the response. I will say that I think in terms of control, I generally look for ownership. Same thing when we're talking about Negroes in Charleston, South Carolina, ownership. And I know who controls the WNBA, the same folks who control everything else, white people. And I know this for many reasons. One, just I know who the owners are, and there are many folks who've said, dang, I think the white people who own the NBA own the WNBA, which has not been profitable for like ever, and they just use this as a tax write-off. Like, dang. But beyond all that, I know who controls the WNBA like everything else, because the non-white and Caitlin Clark white players have been whining, why don't y'all pay us what we owe? That's the shirt I've been seeing the most of. Pay us what you owe. Pay us what we owe. That right there lets me know, no, you're not in control, because if you were, you would not have to whine and beg every day, pay us what we owe, pay us what we owe, pay us what you owe,
well,
pay us
they've
what you
also
owe.
started a
At
separate,
any rate,
they've also
hang on. You're interrupting again.
Okay, right.
But that is true. They have been talking about that all year. And people who control the WNBA, same people, usual suspects. She said pronouns. In the era of pronouns, she used the pronoun they are not going down without a fight. Respectfully, we are talking to an admitted racist, and she did say all white people are racist. It should be we are not going down without a fight. That would be accurate. And that's the way that we should be thinking about this. And in fact, it's got to be we are not going down without a fight, because we are talking to an admitted racist, Blanche Boyd. She just told us, like, man, my brother is a racist terrorist. Like, what?
No. That's in the novel. That's in the novel.
I know, but you said it was like your own family. You said it was like your own family. Is your brother some sort of racist terrorist too?
My brother is a real estate developer. No.
Is he a racist? Let's start there. Is he a racist?
He's as anti-racist as I am. No, he. When I was 30 and he was 23, yeah, he was still a racist. Now he's an anti-racist.
And he's a real estate developer. Oh, wow. How does he function in an industry that is saturated with white supremacy racism? Does he just go out and aggressively look for black people to purchase homes and get them the best deal possible? And if I'm not even going to take no commission, if I get Leroy, if I can get you a property or a house, man, well, I mean, how does he express his aggressive...
I wish that was him. Wish that was him.
How does he do it as a realtor? I mean, that you know better than I. That industry is saturated with white supremacy racism in so many ways. So what does he do as a realtor to work against racism?
I don't know. But, what I was interested... I don't know. I hardly know him. I haven't seen...
I'm laughing because you said he's as anti-racist as I am. You write publicly and got blogs and such. If that's true, he should have a website and a book, and every time you talk to him, and this is the latest project that we're doing, and we're working on those appraisals, and they go and cheat Leroy and Lakeisha out of all kinds of money when they appraise the house, and oh no, not on my one. That's what it should be, and nothing.
That's
but
right.
White people do that sort of thing all the time. They already jump. Oh man, I'm a super anti-racist. Well, what do?
Well, you know what? You're right about that. What I meant was, we were raised to be consciously racist, and like me, he learned enough, he got educated enough to know that what we had been taught was way wrong, immoral, way wrong, just dreadful to wake up and realize, oh my God, look at what we're in. Look, we're all embedded in this mess. And what do? We don't know what to do. I wrote a novel about it, but Tomb of the Unknown Racist is about it. What are we going to do about these white supremacists who are arming themselves? What are we going to do about them? That's a real issue, and it's not being addressed yet because it hadn't come out as a real problem yet, but it's going to. It's going to.
They is us. They is us.
We have found the enemy, and they is us. That's right.
In fact, That white fella at the airport in Atlanta, I know we're talking South Carolina, but that's right next door. The white fella just went to Atlanta Hartsfield Airport with an AR-15. That's the same rifle that Peyton Gendron used to shoot up the tops in Buffalo. Said, I was going to shoot up the airport. I said, whoa, it's a whole lot of black people that work at the airport in Atlanta, work at and travel through Atlanta, because that's a busier hub in that part of the world. Like, man, you're going to come with an AR-15 to shoot up the airport? What, and exactly what Miss Boyd said. Or, in fact, are you familiar with the work of Dr. Frances Cress Welsing? She's a black female author, psychiatrist. She passed away a few years ago. Is that name familiar at all? Okay.
No. Well, I mostly don't read nonfiction. I mostly don't read. I'm just write, you know. I mean, I have a kind of classic English major education augmented by a lot of stuff I read on my own. Right now I'm reading Flannery O'Connor's letters, and it's really interesting because she was just beginning to glimpse. I mean, she died in the early 60s. She was just beginning to glimpse what I'm trying to talk about, that she was embedded in this racism and had no idea how to address it in storytelling. Just no idea. And you can see in her letters that dawning on her and the other white writers that she was in touch with. You can see it dawning on all of them. And
dawning?
What?
Dawning.
Like,
dawning. I highlighted dawning, but really the word that I did literally highlight was embedded, because you said it now many, many times. And just for the non-white people who are listening, that the same pattern that I pointed out for about 16 years, white people deliberately talk about their practice and interest in the system of white supremacy in a very passive way. Privilege, benefit, embedded, all of this makes it as though, oh man, I just woke up and I was at the lynching. No, man, that's not how this works. Susan Smith has been learning how to practice racism since forever. Blanche Boyd has been learning how to practice racism since forever. None of that. I keep saying the problem is not, we're stuck in racism. What do we do? That's not the problem for white people. It's just admitting we are dedicated to the system of white supremacy racism. Period. That's why it's everywhere. It's what you mean. Right. It's in all areas of people activity. That's why it doesn't matter what we're talking about. Real estate, you could say the same thing. If really the logic that you use for those black students, no black person could major in anything because the racism is going to saturate all areas. You couldn't study anything. What are you going to do? Real estate and learn about redlining and how they don't appraise black properties correctly? What are you going to do? Go study medicine and learn about drapetomania, where niggers, if you try to run away, is something wrong with you and you might be sick. What exactly are you going to go study that is not infected? Matter of fact, go try to be a doctor, or we don't even allow niggers to practice medicine in addition to drapetomania. What are you going to study? Black people wouldn't be able to do anything. So in addition to white people not even allowing you to go to school or learn how to read in some instances. So you just have to replace white supremacy with justice and start with the facts. This is not emotion. This is not rhetoric. This is not name calling. This is, what does it mean to be white, studying the evidence, talking to white people. Oh, white, dedicated to the system of white supremacy racism. That's what that means. It can't mean anything else. Just following logic. Dedicated. It ain't no problem. We're not stuck. It's not trouble. Things are working exactly as they should, as we have designed, intended things to function. That's what it is. And I think the sooner that we can get to that point, we'll make progress. But hey, if we're still back at the beginning of Tony Brown's program in 1982, where not one non-white person, oh no, not all white people is racist. That's what all the non-white people, well, we ain't gonna solve this problem. We'll just be confused and lying to ourselves about what is Blanche Boyd, why is she talking that way? Why is she not answering? Oh.
Can I say something else?
Why is she even using those pronouns they as though she is not racist? Oh.
Now, I said I in the first line. I said I in the
You
first
said
line.
they aren't going down without a fight. We aren't going down
I'm not going to
without
support
a fight.
the fight. No, you're not going to find me supporting the fight. You're going to find me leaving the country. That's what I
think
would
you've been
do.
supporting it tonight. Is that what you wanted to say?
No, I wanted to say, did you listen to Tony Brown's journal to the end of it?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you hear when he asked them again? There wasn't zero then, was it?
I did not see
people in
any
that audience
massive change in opinion. I saw him put a poll up where they asked for the percentage because he said, this is in Cincinnati, so let's make sure that we have black people. So they put the numbers up, and I think it was over 30% black people and then like almost 70% white people. But I didn't see any sort of where they did another poll and now 50% of the people. I did not see that at all. Now I can go back and watch it again. I would have probably included that, but no, I did not see that at all. And I did watch to the end. The credits came up. You and Tony Brown were talking as the music was playing and all that. Now, unless they did a second segment or they got some, online extras that were not a part of that segment, no, they did not have nothing like that.
See, I was really proud of that because by the end, a lot of people in that audience had understood what I was talking about, and they agreed with me. They agreed with me.
I didn't even see an audience in that video. It was just you and he talking. Now they may have been off camera and
right. They were off camera and they all had those little things that they could say yes or no to questions at the beginning of what we all got in our hands now. But yeah, and so many people had changed their minds by the time I was finished talking to see that racism was not only personal, it was structural. It was structured into everything. It was structured into everything. It's.
Well,
I don't even know how to explain it better than that.
I do.
It's everywhere.
The reason that I explore the way it ends up being everywhere, it goes back to my definition, a global system of people. And that's just what I said about it's in all areas of study, all of the sciences or disciplines, because it's everywhere that white people go. It's every region of the world. Elon Musk taking folks Space Station X, so Mars, whatever. Racism, white supremacy will be there. Why? Anywhere in the known universe, white people do this anywhere they go and all the time. So it's all areas of people activity. What I just keep saying, what does it mean to be white? That's why it's infected everything. White people practice their white supremacy. Racism is the number one priority regardless of what's going on. We're going to do medicine, we're going to practice racism too, and that's just the evidence. Matter of fact, South Carolina legend, I'm talking about all these folks in the tradition of Southern politeness and manners. J. Marion Sims got statues in South Carolina too that they did not take down after Dylan Storm Roof went on his rampage. That's the father of gynecology who studied on black females. See if we can get these procedures to help white women out. He's got statues in Alabama, South Carolina. They took the one down in New York. They didn't take it down in South Carolina. That's her white neighbors.
They putting all those statues back up.
That's exactly right. That's exactly. But they didn't take J. Marion Sims' statue down in South Carolina to begin with. They didn't even get started. The same way they didn't take J. Strom Thurmond's statue down, child raping racist, and they didn't take down Pitchfork Ben Tillman's statue, even after everything else. And I say no problem, leave them up. But that right there, that's dedication. Dedication. They should just put that on the statues. That's why we got all these folks. They might put a statue up to Dylan Storm Roof. Turns out Dill was right. He had this thing figured out correctly. He was just courageous enough to go ahead and lead the charge, brother. Because, hey, what I say, we, Boyd included, we are not going down without a fight. You better believe it. What does it mean to be white? Any hoodles. We did our time. I learned a lot. Perhaps we'll chat it up. You continue writing and such, so I'll have to see. Maybe there'll be a story or an event that'll pop up where I want to revisit Always good to talk to a white person who is an admitted racist. We'll say that publicly to kind of remind us, whoa, I should have that in the forefront of my brain computer when I speak to a white person, and asking them questions and making sure that they answer my question. Great practice for that. That's always great practice. So that alone, it'd be great to have you back on the program so I can get more practice to make sure that we get answers.
You know, I like talking to you. I'm very surprised I like talking to you. I mean, you're really smart, and you're making me squirm. But I wish you would read my novel, Tomb of the Unknown Racist, where I'm trying to take on the issue of what do white people who oppose racism do when civil war breaks out about it, when white terrorists start. What do people like me who like to think I'm not one of them? What happens? I wanted to know what happens, and so I wrote a novel trying to find out. And I'd be very interested to know your opinion. Yeah, he's made a.
I'll have to think about.
People didn't believe my novel. People didn't believe my novel until I put a list of facts at the front. That the Silent Brotherhood was a real organization that the FBI slaughtered on Whidbey Island. It was a white supremacist.
Hey, that's out here. That's out here. That's the order. Oh my God, that's Washington State history. That's order, right here. Yeah. They made they made a movie about that.
Well, see, in my novel, Ellen, who's a lot like me, her brother was in the Silent Brotherhood. And when they burned the house down at Whidbey, the leader stayed in it, and they found Ellen's brother, part of his body in there too. So they declared her brother dead, and for lots of reasons, it's going to turn out that he's not dead. And what is she going to do? And he is stockpiling ricin, R-I-C-I-N, which is a deadly poison, and he's trying to clone himself a little bit like Elon Musk, and he's a monster, and that's her brother. What is she going to do? What are white people going to do if these people turn out to be our own blood? What are we going to do? I think it's a real issue, and I think it's coming. And so I wrote a book to try to talk about it, and people didn't believe the book. They didn't believe there were all these armed white nuts out there. They didn't believe it. There's a novel called The Turner Diaries that a lot of white people. You know about that? You know about the Turner Diaries? Look at it. We know a lot about that.
William Pierce. Yes, that's.
And the extreme right, that's treated like a Bible.
Yes,
and when Timothy McVeigh blew up the federal building in Oklahoma City, he had the pages from the Turner Diaries that explain how to make a fertilizer bomb in his car on the seat beside him.
Yes, ma'am.
So the link from the Silent Brotherhood, from the Ku Klux Klan to the White Citizens Council to the Silent Brotherhood to Timothy McVeigh to what's happening now, where all these white supremacists, there was like 500 militias, the Southern Black Leadership Conference, 500 militias, white militias in this country. That is terrifying. That's terrifying.
What does it mean? Hey, we are not going down without a fight. And I'm just pointing out for listeners, because yes, we are very familiar with the Turner Diaries. We do have a book club, thank goodness. And old Tim McVeigh, which is also 1990, is that 93? That's like 2 years before the O.J. trial and the trial for Susan Smith. I guess 1 year before the actual crimes, 94, took place. That's 1 year, I think, if I got my 90s history correct with old Tim McVeigh. But the other thing I wanted to say, this would be, I guess, my wrap up. Maybe we'll do a compensatory investment request. Maybe we could read the book in our book club, your novel, but there would have to be like some sort of compensation for that. Like I'd have to think about it. Like I have to think about something. It have to be something really constructive that you'd have to do for our time and energy to read the novel and give thoughts. I have to think about if it'd be worth our time and energy, but because it sounds interesting.
I'd be very interested. I'd be interested in your opinion. And by the way, if we don't go down without a fight, you will find that I am a deserter. I will leave
Well,
the country.
we will have to see. You can say that. It's real easy to say that, Blanche. I'm saying first name deliberately.
I already have a place.
It's real, and that doesn't even count. Like you going to hide out someplace. That's just you using your white power to go get you a little sanctuary. Oh, I'm not
exactly
like, get
right.
out of here, get out of here, get out of here.
That's
the same.
That's what I'm going to do.
That's the same
That's exactly
thing,
what I'm
and
gonna
you're
do.
just being a little racist. Now, Timothy McVeigh, that is also the same time. Or excuse me, Ted Kaczynski. That's what I kept getting my year off. Ted Kaczynski. Oh, it was 95. Timothy McVeigh blew up the OKC building in 1995. I was getting 93 because he was there in Waco with the Turner Diaries, which is true, but that's in 95. That's the only thing that took O.J. Simpson off the front page for like 2 days. Oh my goodness, he blew up the OKC building, and then they went right back to that nigger OJ. He did it, you know, he did it, you know, he did it. Anyway, and that's from April all the way to the end of the trial in October of 95. That whole year of OJ, 2 days of Timothy McVeigh. But you already know what to do if race soldier, not if, race soldier in your family or is your child, or Peyton, or excuse me, Dylan Roof is your child or brother or son or whatever, uncle. Ted Kaczynski. We have already seen that. The correct thing to do is snitch. That's what they did. That's how he was caught. They read the paper.
Right.
Oh, man, you snitch. Oh, my God. My white brothers, they're getting all these guns and bombs, and snitch. You tell all the black people that you possibly can, and then you inform all the law enforcement people, correct folks who are supposed to go and do something about all that in advance. But you already know what's supposed to do, not run. And I'm going to be a little cowardly racist, and I'm not going to get involved. I'm going to go over here in my little bunker and let y'all work it out. Come on.
Well,
That's
listen,
full talk.
I've earned my retirement. Come on, I'm 80.
Please.
I've earned my retirement.
George Stinney didn't get to retire, and victims of racism do not get to retire from being abused. So don't talk to me
That's
about
right.
you going to retire from trying to solve this problem and then come back and say, hey, don't be saying we. I'm not in with them. Don't be get out of here, man. Admitted Racist title still fits. We've been chatting with Admitted Racist Blanche Boyd. You can go check out her many articles online. Redneck Way of Knowledge. You can go and see her tacky piece.
Too.
You can go check out the Substack. You can go see her tacky piece where she capes for Susan Smith, and that lame, inept journalism where she didn't even know about the wedding album and dress. Like, Jesus Christ, you get an F. For, in fact, you should write a piece about that. Like, wow, what a spectacular failure on my part to do my job as a journalist, and I need to reflect on this whole case since I didn't even know all the details of it. But then one more time for me. White people do not care about children. Can't even get all the details straight for the case. I did learn a ton, and we will check in about reading the novel. If it doesn't, I do have it. Yeah, we'll check in about reading the novel. I have to think about it. I'll read a little bit of it, and I'll let you know. But we've been chatting up, Miss Boyd.
So your name's Gus, but what's the rest of your name?
Gus T. Renegade, my hosting handle, and I think I even mailed you my non-host name. I think so in the email.
I don't even know what hosting name means. I mean, you got to understand. I can barely work my computer. My son is.
I think you got the Substack. I've seen you have a lot of material online and books published. I think you got it down pretty good, Miss Boyd. Thank you.
No, it's not true about the computer. My son is a computer expert, and he lives nearby, and he'll come by and I'll say, James, I got this problem here, and I can feel him get impatient. You know, like, oh God, here she goes again, because you know. I was raised with letters, not with symbols. I was not raised with hieroglyphics. And the fucking screen is hieroglyphics. You know, it's a bunch of little marks that mean stuff. But that's not, I'm still looking for 26 letters. Come on, I don't get it. What do you mean that little mark means something? So, yes, it's, you know, there are a lot of people my age who can't learn this at all. About computers. I had the earliest portable. It was a K-Pro. It weighed 40 pounds, and I would travel with it. That was the earliest kind.
Wow. I can't
so
even.
Where are you based?
We
Gus,
have been.
Where?
I'm 206 Seattle, but for listeners, before we let Miss Boyd enjoy the rest of her Tuesday evening, she did graduate from Stanford, unless I've been misinformed. Like
No,
Palo Alto,
I didn't
Stanford.
graduate from Stanford.
Did you attend?
No, I did. I have a graduate degree from Stanford, but the main thing I got at Stanford was that I had a
She said, wait a minute, you said you got a graduate degree. Didn't you graduate then?
There's an undergraduate degree is a college diploma. A graduate degree means you either have a master's degree or a PhD. And the only reason I was able to
graduate when they give you your master's degree? Don't they have a graduation ceremony for all that?
I didn't. Yeah, but I didn't go. I thought it was embarrassing. I didn't want to go to that.
Okay. Anyway, Stanford educate master. That's even better. We have a master's degree from Stanford.
That wasn't the important part. That wasn't the important part about Stanford. The important part was that when I was 22 years old, I got a writing grant from the Stanford Writing Center to go to graduate school, and I was the youngest woman. I was the only woman, the youngest person, and the only writing fellow who was not published yet. And I was so proud of that. That was a really big deal in my literary world. A master's degree from Stanford means nothing to me. I almost didn't take the degree because they said I had to have my thesis, my novel, professionally typed, which was going to cost me $1 a page. And I said, $300? No, I don't want to do it. Finally, I was married at that point. My husband said, we're going to do it. We're going to have it typed. And
I can't get up. So William Shockley is rolling over in his grave. Woo! Palo Alto, stand up. I can't do it. I can't. Anyway, we will chat it up, Miss Boyd. Man, okay. I have learned a ton. Thank you for your Tuesday evening.
Me too.
We will chat down the road. Take care, Miss Boyd. Thank you so much.
Thanks again.
Yes, ma'am.
Bye-bye.
Good evening. Woo! What in the world? Stanford. And this time last year, I was getting ready to go to Stanford. Wacky. Man. What does it mean to be white? He mentioned the term. Anyway, quick commercial break, and then I'll give a few thoughts, what I have to share, see if I can pick out some highlights, and then see if folks have any thoughts, what they learned from Miss Boyd. We'll take a quick break. It's George Stinney. October 21, George Stinney's birthday. We were supposed to do this program yesterday, which would have been fine with me. I was ready to roll. She said, let's do it today. George Stinney birthday. White people ain't got no forgiveness for him, neither. Him nor OJ. But they got tons of forgiveness for child-killing Susan Smith. George Stinney. Conte privileged, I can't even say black, well, yeah, privileged black male because he was 14. I was thinking, man, he's 14. Privileged black boy, George Stinney. We'll take a quick break, and then we will be right back. Context of White Supremacy.
And from the late 1960s, after the death of Martin Luther King and the riots and the upheavals and all like this, and black people with their fists in the air and all like that, and trying to stumble and fumble and find their way and get focus, the white supremacists made a blueprint and put it into action, and that is, I'm going to have these people so confused, they don't even know what they started out to do. And by the late 1970s, they had just about completed it. And we've been on that ever since. And you mentioned something very important. They are more comfortable than ever. But see, it's like making gorillas comfortable in a cage, or monkeys, or pandas. You still got them in a cage, but they're comfortable. See, so give him some bling bling. It's like giving an animal a brand new car and training the animal to ride up and down the street in it. And then you stand back and point at the animal. Like one white man said in the late 1950s. He said he doesn't care what kind of car a Negro has. He said he's still a nigger. And when he rides by in a shiny car, to him, it's just a monkey in a car. White people built a car, put a monkey in it, trained the monkey to drive the car, so now you're looking at a monkey in a car. See, but black people don't see themselves that way. But this is how the white supremacists see us, and they are the ones who run our business. And we have to know that when they look at us, that's what they see. That's what they see. That's what they see. And at a subliminal level, what they see begins to spill over into our brains so that we, at a subliminal level, see each other that way. And indirectly see ourselves that way.
October 6th, Neely Fuller Jr. Born date, October 21. George Stinney's born date, both in the year 1929. Both Fuller and Stinney would have been 96 if they were with us today. Context of White Supremacy. Invest if you think the cows is constructive. Hit the blog racism-notes.blogspot.com, racism-notes.blogspot.com. PayPal button in the top right corner. Much obliged for all the folks who have invested, kept us on the air for, it'll be 17 years if we are here in February of 2026. Beneath the PayPal button, you'll see the links for Cash App, Venmo, PayPal. Again, enormous gratitude for all of the investors. You can also visit the Amazon wish list that is linked on the blog. It is listed under Gus T. Renegade. Enormous gratitude to all of the investors who've nabbed an item or 12 over the years. Hopefully the cows has been worthy of your time and energy. As for our guest for today, things shifted radically when I found that Tony Brown archive interview with our guest for today. That was again from 1982. So 43 years ago. That's one reason why you want to, we victims of white supremacy, be focused on and talking about in a serious manner racism, white supremacy, because your content will be relevant until we solve this problem. We played Tony Brown before. In fact, I remembered we've heard his Cube Vision surveys. He did a survey. He had guests on to talk about the .22 caliber killings in Buffalo at the early part of 1981. The survey for that broadcast was, is there a national conspiracy against black people? And the context for that question was, I guess, the overall system of white supremacy in general, and then the Atlanta child murders was happening, and then, as I just said, the .22 caliber killings in Buffalo, amongst other, Joseph Paul Franklin, white racist serial killer. He was operating at the same time, killing people too. So it was lots that was happening. But that was the poll question at that time. I don't think it was no 0% about the conspiracy. It was 0% when he asked, are all white people racist? And that's still what it is today. That's why I said When Dr. Welsing, for years, she would say, it's not about hating white people. Don't waste any time on that. And I said, hey, I don't know any black people who say scientific conclusion, not name calling, these crackers and whitey, and I don't do no white. I'm making a scientific, I put my lab white coat on. I can be scholarly. I can look at the evidence. I can examine history, behavior patterns. What does it mean to be classified as white? I don't know anybody who says all white people are racist. I don't know anybody. I couldn't point to any books. Scholarly, scientific, nothing. So all you have is lots of people, in my view, saying things that are spectacularly inaccurate, like I said, having the audacity to put their chest out. Put some bass in their voice like they about to say, white people do not care about children. No, they get loud to say, not all white people is racist. Like I said, folks around here saying that I support Neely Fuller Jr.'s counter-racist concepts. So what? And then come back and follow that and say, you got these people running around here saying all white people is racist. Got these people running around saying admitted racist. I said it today about 50 times. Wish it had been 1,000. If you so cowardly that you can't say admitted racist when the white woman just told you, yep, I'm a racist. If you got to get in your brain computer that somehow that ain't right, man, you can't be calling an admitted rapist an admitted rapist. You can't do that. You can't call an admitted robber an admitted robber. You can't call a white person who says, I am racist. You can't call them an admitted rapist. Oh, no. It's more accurate to call them a suspect. Well, then guess what? Beat it. Don't listen. Don't mention my name, because I'm telling you, I think that's cowardly conduct. I think that's evidence of how we've been conditioned. You got to search and find not all white people is racist. I don't care if Neely Fuller said it. And I'm going to tell you, as someone who studied Fuller, Fuller did not always say, not all white people are racist. Fuller did a lecture decades ago, 20th century. He said, someone asked you, are all white people racist? He said, no, I am not saying that. He said the answer to that question, if someone asks you, are you saying not all, or that all white people are racist? Are you saying all white people are racist? The answer is, I don't know. That would be acceptable right now. I have no idea when things hop the train from the answer to that question should be, I don't know, to not all white people are racist, but that is an inaccurate regression. At the minimum, are all white people racist? I don't know. That's all you need to say, because you do not have scientific evidence that's going to last forever. Any individual white person. Blanche Boyd ain't no racist. You don't have no evidence that's going to stand. It's no white person you can name. It's embarrassing and a sign of how retarded and pitiful that we are. We'll waste time talking about, well, these white babies just been alive 2 minutes. You can't say they're racist. That does not get to what it means to be classified as white at all. You're wasting time, and frankly, as Gus T in my book, you're being cowardly. Shut up and sit down. That's VGQ too. If you're cowardly, sit down. Just sit and be cowardly. Acting like you're being bold and brave and progressive and saying something new. Not all white people is racist. No. And like I said, hey, Tony Brown, 50 years ago, everybody thought that. Everybody thought that. Everybody thought that. So you're not even saying anything special. Sit down. And for Gus T, like, oh my Lord, I'm going to tell you, this right here is why I'm never interested in talking to black people. Like, never, 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 never. You can extend that all the way out to non-white people. Like, never, 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 for any reason. Why? I'm not going to sit up and argue with none of y'all. Cows, listeners, no victim of white supremacy on this planet. I wouldn't care if we shared DNA, my mom, grandmother, great-grandmother, dad, uncle, cousin, none of y'all. I don't think all white people is racist. I don't care forever. And in fact, back up off me with that thinking, because you can be kind of dangerous to be around. Get away from me. You don't hear me on your name calling, talking bad about people who think that way, but for sure, I don't want to be around you. I don't want to hear from you. Stay away from me. You get VGQ too, but stay away from me. You're dangerous to me. Extending beyond that, I'm not going to sit around and have conflict with no victim of racism. Fuller said if it's going to be conflict, it's going to be between me and somebody classified as white. I want it. I didn't tell Blanche Boyd. I told her we were going to talk about the Susan Smith, which we did. I didn't find that interview that she did with Tony Brown until later. I didn't even mention it to her. I was going to start with something talking about Susan Smith. Once I found that, what? They up here talking about all white people are racist and she's an admitted racist? We're going to start right there, and I dare this white woman to come out here and tell me, hey, Gus, I ain't no racist. I love it. And that's what she tried to do when we started. So, whoa, you don't come out here and call me some racist. Hey, that's what I want. You ever let me find something where you went on record and said, I is a racist? You gonna carry that label forever. I wouldn't care what she said today. And she couldn't even run, but she did all that twisting and squirming. And that's what I'm gonna say again, man. All of y'all can back up off me like for life. I don't care about none of your criticisms, what you think about the cows, because I have a very low opinion of all of the non-white people in the universe who say we're counter-racist, including Gus T. And do you know why? We haven't solved the problem, so all of you all can beat it. I'm going to be my own tough critic, do my own work. That's what I've been doing for 17 years. 17 years. At the end of the day, I would much rather go at a white person. That's who we say the problem is. Let's talk to them directly and learn. And in fact, I'm going to point out a big difference between me and the rest of you all when I say it's 101. You heard me get a white woman on here today, and you've heard me do it before. Get white people, not black people. I don't care nothing about getting no black person in the universe to tell them, Leroy, Lakeisha, you're dumb, you're ignorant, you don't know what you're talking about. That's probably true for all of us. Gus T at the top of the list. White people to blame. I'm not going to do that. I will get a white woman, a white man, and you've heard me do it both ways, and tell them, you say you're an expert. You didn't even do your work. You're sloppy. You get an F for the work that you did here. You heard me do that today. You've heard me do that before. I don't hear us go, and particularly publicly, tell a white person and call them out exactly. You got holes in your scholarship. It's sloppy. You might even be an affirmative action hire. That right there, I'm going to separate myself. I don't get excited to go and squabble with black people. Nah. I'm looking for a white person, and I'm going to tell you, that's Katherine Massey Book Club. We sat there and studied Susan Smith for months, reading about the case, newspaper article. Anytime we read a book, non-fiction, anytime we read a book, Katherine Massey Book Club, I'm going to do my research and study. That's why I'm studying Cranberry, New Jersey, Assata Shakur right now. Why I sound the way I did today? Man, we spent so much time in the Katherine Massey Book Club studying South Carolina, Pitchfork, Ben Tillman. All the time we done spent George Stinney, all the time we spent studying Essie Mae Washington Williams, Strom Thurmond, all the time we spent studying South Carolina. You gonna tell me some nonsense about Susan Smith, Southern culture, or any of it? Nah. I'm not excited about squabbling and arguing with some black person. I'm going to go with a white person who's trying to lie to me. You say you're an admitted racist? Great. I'm going to point out exactly how you practice racism in lying to me right now. And you're sloppy, Scott. Like, I cannot say that enough to get some lame white person who she said, my scholarship in writing is so lame, we can't even republish this from 20 years ago. That's not Tony Brown. I've replayed numerous segments from Tony Brown's work. It was brilliant in 1982. It's brilliant now, 2025. What do you mean? You step 30 years into the future, and oh my God, I've been caping and excusing a racist and didn't even do proper research for this story. That I went to South Carolina. You had all the resources. You didn't even just sit at home and just read online, watch a little TV and write. You went to South. You got the people right there. You lived in South Carolina. You know all these people. You can go talk to. You can go find Edward Gilliam. See, that was a black male they said was radical and militant who didn't believe Susan Smith from day one. Said, ain't no way in the world no privileged black dude stole no white children. Y'all stuffed the jails with black dudes in South Carolina. Get out of here. They said ain't nobody want to talk to him. She could have went and talked to him. Hey, she could have went and seen the wedding album, Wedding Dress, for herself. She's too lazy to do that. That's what I'm saying. Like, white people become experts on things and they're lazy. I don't even say I'm a Susan Smith expert. I know about that wedding dress. That was a key piece of evidence. What do you mean you wrote all the multiple pieces and print? They published, even look at that. They published her tacky, lame confession where she lied. You don't include nothing about the wedding dress that they still talking about 30 years later at her parole hearing. That gets brought up as a key piece of evidence as to why she should not be released. So you had more opportunities to learn about the dress and you still don't know. That's what it means to be white, too. You don't even have to be good at your job. Just be white and racist, apparently. Just be white and racist. What do you want to do? I want to write a story excusing racist, child-murdering Susan Smith. Okay. I ain't going to pay too close attention to the details of the trials and all that. Don't worry about it. You going to say that we shouldn't kill her, though, that she's a cute white woman? Okay, we got you. Don't worry about it. And get paid. What does it mean to be white? And did you see how slick she got? She came at me and said, my brother, he is a world champion anti-racist. Really? What's his credentials? And that's what we got too. She didn't say one thing. She didn't say one thing. She didn't list one thing. He might tell nigger jokes all day long, as much as we know. I've heard that before, too. That's what I mean. Like, I'm not going to waste 5 seconds squabbling with any of you. Like, I have to strain not to name call for the contempt that I have for victims of racism. A lot of it just because we don't agree with your views, Gus T. So what? Which I've said from day one. And to be honest, guess what? I don't agree with none of you all's views either. We ain't solved this problem, so apparently none of us know what we're talking about. Still learning. I'm not interested in talking to y'all. Bring me the racists. You said what about your brother? He's an anti-racist. Give me his credentials. Still waiting. And he in the real estate business? Like, oh my God. She ain't even have one case. Leroy and them struggling to get a house. You know they got bad credit. Burned down a crack house in the 90s. Nobody rent to them. Shh. I bent over backwards. Got Leroy a 5-bedroom house. Ain't taking no commission. She ain't had no story like that. I got Leroy a barn and a bucket for an outhouse. It's the best I could do, but I mean, that's better than sleeping on the park bench. She ain't even have that. They just tell black people anything, man. Like anything. I benefit from racism. Oh, yeah, I benefit from the race. How do you practice? Right? You hearing the question? She said, ooh, can we change that word back to the B word, the benefits? Yeah, I tell you all about me and the benefits of a white woman now. I go out there, but practice, Can't find no, you get all these racists, but can't find no white people who practice racism. And I love that word practice, because when you practice, you get better. Say, practice make perfect. That's what they say. Say, practice make perfect. Anyway, permanent. I didn't mean to say perfect. Practice makes it permanent. That's it. Practice makes it permanent. Practice makes it permanent. White people practice the system of white supremacy racism. Anyway, we'll get to the folks who dialed in. I'm so glad I remembered this heifer graduated from Stanford. Now, she squabbled about that the same way she did about rental. Oh my God, that's one of my favorite parts of the program. Now, I do know there's a difference between exoneration and acquittal. Exoneration means we find that you, for sure, you did not do this and all of that. Acquittal just means you were found not guilty. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't, but we don't have the goods on you, so you are not guilty. OJ was found not guilty, acquitted. He was not exonerated. Woo! OJ was exonerated. When was he exonerated? Now, that might just be my personal bias and thinking, ain't no way in the world Rental James did this. He should have been exonerated, but neither here nor there. He certainly has not been forgiven, even though he was acquitted. George Stinney ain't getting no forgiveness either. Birthday gift for George Stinney. We forgive you. You've been dead all the nah. Raping, murdering Negroes. He can't even fit in the electric chair. Anyway, anything else? Racist? We never get racist jokes. Yeah, we'll see. Folks who dialed in, they have commentary. We heard victim, retired firefighter. Do y'all have any commentary to share before we wrap it up for Tuesday?
Maybe heard.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. This one was a interesting discussion with Blanche Boyd. Some of her comments I was typing down so I can repeat them. She said, I was a child and I did not want to hear any of the racist jokes. Okay. As a kid, she admitted to being a racist. She grew up with a racist family, and then somehow, some way, being, I guess, unique or whatever, decided I'm not going to be a racist like everybody else and benefit like everybody else. Just logically speaking, that is not logical. That's silly and stupid. She also said she heard a lot of the racist jokes growing up, and now, since we're talking to non-white black people, I don't want to be around anyone who tells racist jokes. To me, that was another way of practicing white supremacy, a means to avoid being culpable at this moment amongst non-white people to answer those questions or repeat those jokes. And when she made comments about the Susan Smith and making those false statements about a black male stealing her car and her children, and you asked her, did she believe it? She said nobody in their right minds would believe a black man stole a car with white kids in it at that time. When you asked her more questions about Susan Smith herself, she said herself, and she tried to clarify later, said, well, this is how people reported saying it. That sweet little pretty white girl, she did not know what she was doing when she admitted to killing her children. And she also added after that, people was trying to give her excuses saying she wanted to commit suicide with the kids. But from the studies and the book club, I don't think that's true. And I don't believe that's true at all. She said Dave's girlfriend, when they were breaking up, was following her and then also that Dave said he had the goods on her for having a consensual sexual relationship with her stepfather, white culture, for years, white culture. She also made statements about how to, give her a pass, trying to make it seem like she didn't know what she was doing. They do this to all white people who commit crimes, murders, rapes, or whatever. They always try to make it seem like they're just confused or know what they're doing. She said she drew hearts over her eyes like a child. She said that. She also made statements in regards to you, Gus. She said something about, I like talking to you. You got me stirring, or some kind of weird euphemism. We should talk more because I think we will really like each other. I don't even know what that means. She did try to answer the question about the redneck way of logic. I just chalked it up to white supremacy, white culture. She used another, I guess, acronym, DOTR, Day of the Rope. That's the first time you're hearing that. They're going to hang blacks, Jews, gays, and whatever. She admitted to being a lesbian. No surprise there. Another thing that was very interesting, and I thought I took this as practicing white supremacy again. What gives me hope? The women's basketball league. How? What does that have to do with anything we're talking about? White people still own the teams. Black people still play, and like you pointed out, Gus, that's just a tax write-off to a certain degree. She also used Caitlin Clark, the Great White Hope. Got to have a white hope. She talked about her brother a bit. When I was 30, he was a racist. Now he's as anti-racist as I am. I asked her, if you really want to separate yourself from being quote-unquote considered or being looked upon by victims of white supremacy as being a racist, tell us some racist jokes. She refused to every time. That's practicing white supremacy. That's maintaining the white code, like you say, no snitching. This she also admitted that she don't really know who he is now, so she could just be talking. This book she's reading now, Flannery O'Connor Letters, and the movie The Order. I still have to watch that movie. I haven't seen that yet, but yeah, white women do it, do it the best. That's it for me, Gus. Thanks for taking my call.
Much obliged, victim. The great Robert Matthews, the Robert J. Matthews and The Order. That was the actual name of their white supremacist subgroup. But that movie is based on a book by the same name. I cannot believe this time last year I was about 3 days away from going to see that movie in Los Angeles with the World Series and the filmmakers in the house. What a wacky, and they didn't even make that movie easily available to see. That's my Washington State history. I had to go all the way to California to see it because that movie was not widely screened even here in Washington State. And I had other Cows listeners. Man, I had a tough time seeing The Order. It was almost like they didn't want us to learn about old Robert J. Matthews and race soldiers going out. They were killing cops and robbing banks and man, of course, practicing white. The Turner Diaries is in The Order. They got illustrated copies of the Turner. I talked about it I was in California. I was in San Francisco at that time, but I saw it in L.A. I almost walked out of the theater in Hollywood, California when they started. I don't even have an illustrated copy of the Turner that they man. Reading more important than watching television. That film is based on a book, nonfiction. Other folks have commentary they wanted to share.
Yes, sir. Can I be heard?
Retired firefighter, yes, sir.
Yeah, from my questioning and her answers and some cases avoiding the questions by going off on another subject of females playing basketball. The first thing of my thoughts is, can the practice of racism and the benefits that one obtains from racism, can those two things be separated? I don't think it can. I don't think it can be separated. You have to have some knowledge that you are obtaining a benefit, and the knowledge is that you are a racist white supremacist, and you know that this is going to benefit me, and then those who develop that benefit, that sort of thing. So I don't think the two can be separated, and that's what she was trying to do, separate the two. And another thought that I had here was, should a anti-racist have at least a suggestion? I mean, she quickly basically stated that I don't have an answer to it. I don't have an answer to it. And basically what that was telling me, I ain't going to give you a goddamn answer to it. That's basically how it factored into my brain computer, that I'm not going to give an answer to it. I'm not going to give a suggestion to it. Why? Because of the benefits that I'm getting from it. That makes logic to me in an evil way, of course. And another thought that I had was suggesting, need to have my glasses on. She was making this suggesting about a war to break out. Isn't racism, white supremacy war in itself? What has white people have not done to non-white people on the planet Earth? I mean, you can spend a whole week of your programs on those things. The president at one time, about 80 years ago, say the powers of the earth, which ended up being an atom bomb. They dropped 2 of them on non-white people. I mean, let alone talking about the other disasters that took place that white people committed on non-white people under a global system of racism and white supremacy. And she is talking about something that is already in existence. And those are my thoughts on the guest. I just chalk it up with a white person like that who would talk about racism and call themselves an anti-racist. And when you question them on how this problem can be solved, they don't have an answer to it. They're irrelevant. They're not even worth it, when it comes down to it in my mind, So those are my thoughts. Thank you for listening.
Much obliged, retired firefighter in Florida. I thought that was a great point as well, where she said she wrote her book and, saying these white people, and it's going to be a civil war, so-called, and war and all that. And racism is a war. And all of that stuff is already happening in terms of white people getting guns and shooting and killing. And we've had that she started off talking about the Civil War reenactments. That's from 200 years ago. So that's all we got is shooting and killing and shooting and killing and shooting and killing. Mostly shooting and killing non-white people, but shooting and killing white people kill for fun. And again, the white people who, what shall we say? She said it, pretend that they are against racism some days, or part-time maybe, a little bit. No suggestions at all. How are we going to get this here problem? I think the maximum that I can remember is buy my book. What are we going to do to solve this problem? Buy my book. That'll give you all the answers right there. Nothing substantive beyond buy my book or buy my lecture whatever services that I'm offering that you're going to have to pay quite a bit for. Other than that, like, I don't know. And she almost didn't even, I think she said, I don't know, but when they get to shooting, I already got my little hideout in. Well, can I come with you? I ain't got room for Leroy. I'm just going to go. Like that ain't. She said, I'm old white woman. I got old racist. And I got to retire. I did my part. I'm gonna go and watch me some old movies, and maybe I'll write a story about Leroy and put a character named Gus in there. Come on. Fuller said that. He said the white people who claim, wink, wink, that, hey, brother, not all white peoples is racist. You know, I'm with you, black brother. We're going to solve that. They're not going to be able to help you solve this problem. And that might be that they're not really trying to help you solve this problem. They're trying to maintain the system of white supremacy racism. And I humbly submit a big part of that is getting the victims tricked, fooled as to what it means to be classified as white. I could be wrong. Anyway, we will be here at minimum on Thursday, neutralizing workplace racism. Same time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And then, great commercial, Katherine Massey Book Club every Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We just started Evelyn Williams, Inadmissible Evidence, about her niece Assata Shakur. And Evelyn Williams, she was an attorney, her defense of the Black Liberation Army, including her niece. Third installment will be Friday. A lot of the books that were mentioned today we read in the book club. Turner Diaries, we read that way back in 2012. That was one of the first books we read in the book club. Dear Senator by S.E. Mae Washington Williams. The biography on Pitchfork, Ben Tillman and the Reconstruction of White Supremacy. We read that right after Peyton Gendron shot up that church in Charleston, South Carolina. We just finished Susan Smith on her sins of the mother and her killing those children. So that right there, at least for me, the more you know about the system of white supremacy racism, you can do a much better job grasping what it means to be white, and I would say neutralizing racist deceivers when they come and lie. Oh, Susan Smith, she was just going to commit suicide. She's a sweet, darling little thing, and you know she didn't. What? No, I do a little study, and I know about Susan Smith, and that wench should have fried. She didn't need no forgiveness out there caping for a racist. Being a racist, see? White women, I got you. See, Blanche Boyd said, I'm a white woman. I got your back, Susan Smith. You a fellow South Carolina white woman just like me. I got your back. We ain't going to talk about you bad. We going to forgive. We going to forgive. That's what the Lord say, forgive. And she pretty. She got on a pretty dress today and everything. Beautiful hair and blonde. They ain't do that for George Stinney. He had on a nice pair of breeches, suspenders, new haircut. I was going to say freshly shaven, but I mean, he's 14, so you can't, you know. They ain't talk about how handsome George Stinney was. They got him going to the gallows. They put him in the electric chair. They didn't do that. Come on. Sobriety would be best. We need high-functioning brain computers to solve the problem, white people. Creator, we ask that you remind us, stop saying not all white people are racist. Stop name-calling people classified as black. Minimize contact with other victims of white supremacy racism. Remind us to maximize our time replacing white supremacy with justice. Immediately remind us to refrain from wasting non-white people's time and energy, especially our own. It has been time. Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Cows signing out. Thanks all for tuning in.
Nigga, you so brainwashed. I'm a victim, brother. Problem. You're a victim. Yeah. I'm a victim of 400 years of conditioning. Shut up. The man has programmed my condition. Even my conditioning has been conditioned.